A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
A half-second lead. Oh, with the sizzling car in the background.
He has, oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Goes to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round number 8 of the Automobilista Australia Supercars Championship for 2020. It's the halfway point in the season, and to quote the old Murray Walker, with half the race gone, there's still half the race to go, but in this case, half the season gone, half the season still to go. Tonight, we're in the top end. Darwin. This round last year, it was a dominant performance from Brenton Foley, walking away with both the track records and both the race victories to boot. But he's going to have a bit of a hard time because the creator of this track is none other than our championship leader in Kurt Stenberg. It's been the sprint races that have been his Achilles heel, though. They're the races that he has had to work very, very hard to earn the race victories that he's had this season in sprint race format. Last time out at Townsville, the longer race format, if not for a safety car, it would have been a dominant win by 3/4 of a lap. It's the longer format that seems to be better for him, but we'll soon find out whether or not he's got a little bit of something in reserve for this track, the one that we've been proud to use over the last couple of seasons, and we do thank him for all the efforts that he's gone to for making tonight's track. My name is Steve DeVries, as always, in the commentary box for tonight's proceedings, and for the very first time, not in studio, but is here in the Discord for a change. Our COVID-19 restrictions here in Victoria have meant that we can't call this from the same commentary box, but nonetheless, still glad to have our resident sleuth, our resident encyclopedia of all things supercars, and that's Hans Brunswick. Hans, good evening.
I'm sitting here. I've got the wheel up still, actually, and I'm not racing. I'm just here talking. So, bit different. Had a go out before in the practice session. Got down to a 105.9, but we'll definitely see a qualifying time probably in the mid to late fours. So it'll be interesting to see what the qualifying will bring out in terms of superior pace.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how close we actually get to the race and track lap records over the course of the night. You'll see in a short while from our graphics when they come up what the lap records actually are, with about 7 minutes or so to go in practice. But for the moment, let's have a bit of a look at what happened last time out a couple of weeks ago. It was the North Queensland 200 from the Townsville Street Circuit. Good launch for Kurt Stenberg off the line, and behind him, his ASC stablemate in Colin Warwick got an absolute flyer of a start off the second row of the grid. Will Devonish went backwards off the start. All pretty fair and reasonable through the opening part of the race. Stenberg basically pulled margin and tried to run away with it very, very early. Some very early passing moves sized up down here. The hairpin was the most prime opportunity. Brenton Foley got it all wrong on the opening lap. Ended up in the tyre barriers and then ended up having to recovery drive through the field. Again, another one of the favoured spots for passing was down at turn 2. Luke Rosella making some light work of the traffic there. But very, very early, Will Devonish gave himself a bit of a setback with a spin off the final corner and then having to wait for the entire field to go through before rejoining. And that meant that he would have yet another recovery drive through the field, having done some similar things over the course of time throughout the season. But was very, very willing in the mid-pack as well. Elbows out racing, all fair racing. Both the Volvos were having a relatively good day out to begin with. Some trouble for Wayne Spencer a bit later on meant that he wouldn't finish the race. Burko going side by side with his Super 2 stablemate and Lime Mitch through a good part of the circuit. Liam Spencer making a couple of late dives and pulling off some very, very brave manoeuvres on our defending champion Brenton Foley. Getting out of the groove was pretty important that you didn't do that in some cases. You can see Lime Mitch there using a bit more of the AstroTurf and the grass than he would have liked. And again, Foley making some mistakes at turn number 12, the hairpin. That allowed this manoeuvre to happen, a 3-wide skirmish going into the final corner, and that started to bring a lot of the drivers that had had trouble in the opening part of the race to get back onto the train of some of the mid-pack. Lewis Wedding boxing on with Lime Mish. That gave a bit of an advantage to Liam Spencer trying to run down here. Will Devonish had to fight his way through the traffic, pulling a very, very nice over and under treatment here down at turn 2. And Lewis just a little happy on the loud pedal, just couldn't get back across to cover the line, and then Will was through. Rosella and Warwick had a good battle through the better part of the first half of the race. Running side by side here through turn 2, Rosella would get the better drag out of turn 2 and ultimately would cement that position, cutting off the nose of the ZB Commodore just through turn 3 and 4 there. Will continuing his ascendancy back into the top 4 after very much a recovery drive. HDS made their return as well. Bit of a moment here for Billy Dougal-Salonga off of the hairpin, having to wait for all the traffic to go through as well. Brenton Foley sees that opportunity to side down the inside of Wayne Spencer, but ultimately lost that place. And then a bit of an awkward moment in the race, just sort of after halfway, this started to happen. Rhodey had a couple of off-track moments, the first of them at turn 2, and then not too many seconds later, down here at turn 3. And that triggered the HSV Camaro safety car and compressed the field, which was music to Will Devonish's ears, because that meant that all his Christmases had basically come at once. It did lead to a few pit lane shenanigans. Here you can see the FGX Falcons of the loose SimSport cars trying to jockey for some position to get out of the lane, and 3 of the CRE cars trying to go into 2 pit bays, and Brenton Foley in the mix there as well. Upon the restart, though, Will was a bit of asleep at the wheel. Will managed to not make the best of the fist of that restart and let Stenny get away from him just for the opening couple of laps from the restart. Meanwhile, Brenton Foley had earned himself a penalty through no fault of his own, through some sort of a track glitch, and had to serve that. That pulled him out of 3rd place on the road. And then this happened. Will, another one of these little moments, just outbraking himself into the second corner, and ultimately his charge toward another possible race victory was gone in the blink of an eye. And that left the current series leader to take what was going to be a comfortable win in the end from the safety car. And if not for that safety car, as we said, he would have won by better part of 3/4 of a lap. He was that far in front when the safety car came out. It pretty much curtailed his race, and he had to fight and earn that one, and earn it he did. He won by 8.1 seconds in the end, with Devonish crossing the line 1.2 seconds ahead of Luke Rosella. Steve Burko with one of his best runs of the season up there in 5th place behind Lewis Wedding. And only the top 6 managed to get home on the lead lap. Brenton Foley having another 30 seconds added to his race for that drive-through penalty that he had to serve at the back end of proceedings. Behanza, was a pretty entertaining second half of the Townsville race, not so much the opening half.
No, the opening half of the race was very quiet, but the second half of the race did really turn it on after all the pit stops shook out, and we did get a cracker of a race, and it was all action-packed. We were sort of struggling. We didn't know where to look. There was that much action in the field, Steve.
No, and the safety car does tend to do that. It does tend to liven up the field a little bit and sort of puts us on the edge of our seat for a little bit, just so we can get an idea of how things are going to go. And as we've said, the longer format races have tend to be Kurt Stenberg's, better races. He's really showed his class in the longer format race. It's the shorter race formats that he's really had to earn his keep. So that's what we're going to be interested in looking out for tonight when it comes to the crunch. Point standings heading into tonight, though, are very, very important. So let's have a look at those now. And as we said, Kurt Stenberg is the championship leader after the opening 7 rounds, and he leads comfortably by 117 points over Will Devonish. And then back to our defending champion, Brenton Foley. So it's Holden 1, 2, 3 at the top of the points table there. And Steve Burko's 5th place finish at Townsville has moved him right up the charts into 4th place. So the Super 2 points leader is starting to make his presence felt in this championship. Our driver in focus for this week, and Hans, you're very much grinning from ear to ear, I can tell you now, just even though you're not here, I can tell that you are, is our man Luke Rosella. From 5 races, have a look at the results down the bottom there. Two that weren't the greatest in Barbagallo, but he did hold his own pretty well. But since then, 3 straight podium finishes and just on the outside of the top 12 there. Mate, the kid can drive.
Yeah, absolutely. The kid can drive. I've been singing his praises so far this season. 5 races in, and I'm pretty sure in every race I've said something good about him. So we'll continue the trend. And Luke Rosella, 5 races, 5 pretty good results considering, especially at Barbagallo, he had a lot more problems with lag than at the last 3 races. But then we also saw a couple of lag issues creeping in there as well. But considering that, he was able to keep it clean. He's been, apart from that, he has made very few mistakes. And he's very much holding his own in this pretty quality field right now, this part of the season. We are, I don't even know how many rounds are left in this championship. Can you riddle me that, Steve?
Yeah, this is the round 8. We've got a couple of 7 more rounds left to go, so not too much.
So we're
to
basically
go.
halfway in the season. Run home to the season. Let's see if Luke Rosella can make his way up, because he was a bit of a latecomer, but I reckon he's half a chance of getting into the top 10 by these results if the trend continues, Steve.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. He's also a late entry into the server tonight too, so not very much practice under his belt, but hopefully we'll get to see how all that goes as qualifying is not too far from kicking away, probably in the next couple of seconds. Teams points very, very quickly. CRE Race Engineering dominating the standings there at the moment, and PBF pretty much in a very, very big battle right now to hold on to second place ahead of Loose Simsport, who are breathing down their neck. And as you can see on the side of the graphic there, Loose Simsport, 3-car team, Lewis Wedding heading the charge, I guess, in terms of the number of points that are on offer from Pete Savage, who started to come on strong, and then Zach Ross has sort of done a few races but hasn't completed the whole season just yet, but only 2 cars per night can inherit points anyway, so we'll see how all that pans out. What we are going to do, though, is head across and have a look at qualifying, which is about to get underway. And here we are. And already the field is streaming out onto pit lane. Have a look at the logjam in the pits.
Now, that is a traffic jam if ever I saw one, a top-end traffic jam. Brian Walsh is 1 out and 1 wide. He's in the slow lane of the pits. He's going to let everyone pie. That's a good move there. We've seen recently some people in events, they would actually, take the mickey out of the lining up at pit lane, but that's okay. That was all well and done there. So pretty good job by everyone to survive that one.
I'm just having a look to see who's actually still in the pits. The only driver still in the pits so far is Kurt Stenberg and Lewis Wedding and Wayne Spencer. So out of the 18 cars that are in the field tonight at the minute, only 3 of them have elected not to jump out onto the track right now.
Yeah, so we've got the majority of cars out on the field at the moment, or rather on the track. The majority of the cars in the field are out on the track. And, Thomas McMillan, another late entrant as well.
Brings us up to 19. So a couple of very, very late entrants here. So not only Luke Rosella making a late appearance, Colin Warwick, Brendan Ross and Thomas McMillan all into the server just in the last 3 or 4 minutes. So very limited practice for those guys. There's a nice logjam of cars on the front straight here, so it's going to be headed by Super 2 frontrunner Lime Mitch, who's just flashing the lights there as Wayne Spencer selected to come out onto track. Behind him, Pete Savage, then Termo, and then a couple of cars further back. Who else is back there? Looks like there's Liam Spencer's back there as well, and one more on the back of that train as well.
Lime Mitch, one of the Pro B runners and one of the top runners in Super 2. You can hear he's using the traction control option as you hear the car sort of bouncing on a sort of, I guess it's limiting the revs. It's making that brrr sound, that machine gun sort of sound you would hear from race cars that have traction control. Reminiscent of the old Formula 1 cars, but he's on a pretty solid lap at the moment. Let's see what the second sector split looks like for Lime Mitch. 45.25.
That's not terrible. And the traffic ahead of him in Wayne Spencer hasn't really hurt his run either. So Wayne pretty much getting on the money straight away on his outlap and making sure he stays well clear of the Monster Energy Mustang. So it's going to be a pretty respectable time to start with for Lime. It's going to be a banker somewhere in the 6s, and it's a 6-1. Immediately surpassed by Pete Savage. Termo slots in between the pair of them, and the times start to come thick and fast. So the top 5 all across the line within a second of each other. Pete Savage, the man currently on the provisional pole. There he is.
And eclipsed by Luke Rosella, and once again eclipsed by Will Devonish, 105.52.
So this is
and
already
Libreville
started.
105.67. So pretty close in the opening stages. Top three cars are separated by less than 0.2 of a second as we see Peter go off the road at turn 4, I believe it is, if I get my numbers right.
Yeah, and he's back to the pits as well. Will Devonish up already on his marker at the Sector 1 split by just over a half a tenth. Qualifying lap record is a 105.1 set last year from Brenton Foley, and the race lap record a 105.5, so already on the race lap record pace in qualifying, so that's not too bad at all. There are
It's
rumours...
not unusual to see that in qualifying, but in the race, they'll definitely be up there if they're anywhere. Ooh,
We might be getting close to it.
On a lot. He gets on 2 wheels there, just saw the car sail up into the air. So
He's 4.5 tenths up as well, so we might be getting close to seeing the magical 4 that people have been talking about. Brenton Foley has remarked that he did do one last year after this race, but it's not official, it's not in the books.
ooh,
Devonish did
that
lose
was
a-
like 1/10 out.
He lost
So
a bit of
Will
time.
Devonish-
That 2-wheel moment's cost him, hasn't it?
Yeah, that 2-wheel moment would have definitely cost him. The car just sailed up onto 2 wheels. It didn't come down as quickly as he would have liked, but pretty impressive otherwise.
A couple of drivers starting to complete their first laps as well. Here's Thomas McMillan. He was 1.7 seconds off the leader's pace at the first sector split, but this will just be a banker just to set something on the board and then build on it from there. Going to be a high 6, so 6.9. And I'm also looking to see Lewis Weddings on his first flying lap as well. So too, well, Brenton Foley's done... Oh, geez, that's a bit of a... Must be a traffic-affected lap for Brenton Foley. A 1:10.8 is definitely not truly representative of what we know he can do. And now on to Lewis Wedding, who is the last man to set a lap time of any nature. And he's coming through Sector 2 now. Through this very, very awkward right-hand sweeper at turn 3. And you'll see from our hot lap coming up after qualifying is over from Brenton Foley how you actually attack that corner, because it is a bit of a unique beast with having to balance the brake and the throttle just nicely to get the car to turn in and agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of an awkward sort of series of turns, series of direction changes. Stenberg, meanwhile, he's gone to the top. He's actually first car into the 4s.
There we go. So it didn't take long. It's taken halfway through the session for us to see a 4, but there it is from Stenberg, a 4.9. So a 10th clear of Will Devonish. So Devonish has lowered his benchmark from the 105.1.
He's losing time in that final sector.
It is
I
a
think
tricky...
Will Devonish is losing time, a bit too much time in the final sector. He matched his personal best first sector, pretty much matched his personal best second sector, and then lost all that time at the third sector. So Will Devonish, he's looking for a bit of a change, perhaps. Oh, Lai Mitch, he's about to start a flying lap. Will Devonish gets out of the way.
Yeah, it's a 10th difference between Devonish and Stenberg alone in the final sector, and that's where it is. Oh, he's had a bit of a moment there getting on the grass. The best final sector is Kurt Stenberg's 20.484, Devonish behind on a 20.573, so literally a 10th or thereabouts in the final sector, and then the rest of the lap is really negligible. It's going to be those 1%.
It's very evenly matched in the first 2 sectors, absolutely.
Yeah, all about commitment through that final sector though as well. Once you get out of Sector 2 comes up just before you start to get to the series of left-handers that go down the hill. So this is turn 6, and then you come up over the rise here. This is where the Sector 2 split starts, right here, and then Sector 3 commences. So getting through this sequence of corners is very, very important. There's essentially one line, and you've got to be right on it. Some of those 2-wheel moments, it's tempting to take a little bit of curb. You really don't want to take a great deal of it. You really want to try and stick to the racing line as much as possible and utilise all 4 wheels on the track and all the grip available.
Oh, Will Devonish, he's taking a bit of liberties with the track limits here on the way into turn 1.
Yeah, that'll be frowned upon if he goes too far over to the right-hand side there and he gets all 4 wheels outside the track limits, then he will have that lap deleted. So you don't want to be doing that too often. If drivers report each other during the race for doing it, then he's going to be in some trouble. But he is up at the first sector split, and this is those 1%ers, so these half a tenths. Again, like Simmons Plains and other circuits of that nature before it, these gains that you make on some of these really short tracks are very, very incremental. Oh, Line Mitch going
Mitch
for a
off
bit
the
of
road,
a...
or was that lag? Or...
Oh, I don't know, but
and
Devonish
Will
has lost
Devonish is
it.
around.
There we go. So he's
He's overcooked it.
He's overcooked it. He's going to have to get out and back onto the track. He's only going to get one more shot at this, so he's got to
He's only going to get one more shot, absolutely. If he motors it along, he'll get one more shot, but he needs to get a move on because I don't think he's going to make it at this point. Or he might make it, actually.
Stenberg's
as long as he has more than 1 minute 10.
He'll get around for one more at least. Stenny's just put in a first sector time that's fractionally up on his own pole lap, so looking set to take a little bit more off if he can get it. We'll stay with him up to sector 2. How does it look? No, lost a lot of time. So
lost a lot of time there.
Went from being 12 thousandths of a second up to 0.2 of a second down. And Lewis Wedding in behind him has somehow motored his way up to 5th place, splitting Pete Savage and Luke Rosella. And Stenberg will get one more go. Man who's sort of stuck in plumb nowhere at the minute is Brenton Foley. So he's improved his time. He's improved it down to... where is he here? Just looking to see what it is over on the screen. He's done a 106.00099. So he's... Yeah, it's sort of caught in a bit of a rock and a hard place here.
And is he using a different livery as well? He's using a Red Bull livery.
Yeah, correct. This is one of their throwback liveries. This is from 2018 when they ran. So this is kind of a retro round for them, I guess. We have seen Brent Foley run the Are You OK livery at the Albert Park round as well. So dusting off a little something different for them. I've seen that a few times in some of the series over the years, that drivers will dust off.
He's up on his own PB, so hopefully this lap will be in the 5s.
So if it'll be in the 5s,
it'll be a 105.9.
It'll be looking to put him around the Thomas McMillan, Steve Burko group of cars. So that's back end of the top 10. He will get one more lap. So too will Stenberg behind. So Foley's going to do probably a high 5. No, mid 5. He actually improved. He got a lot more time than what we was expecting. So moves up to P7.
Very good final sector there.
And Stenberg's lowered the mark as well. So he's lowered it to 4.872.
Devonish on his final flyer of a lap. Let's see what he can do. He's coming up to turn 4.
Foley's just immediately been surpassed by Luke Rosella, moving up to P4 as well. So Devonish down, but down slightly. Had a little bit of a moment there on the exit of turn 4, getting up to the hairpin. So that's probably going to be a little bit costly.
Well wide the ideal line. He gets the nose back in, gets a good run. Let's see how much curb he takes through here. Needs to be careful. Not too much curb there. Car's not sliding too much. That's very good.
No, I don't see him improving in this final sector,
he's down again, so he's going to try and make it all up in the final sector. Take a late
Pete Savage, here. Big moment behind. Pete Savage with a big moment behind.
He just nosed into the barrier.
Nosed into the barrier, so that was out of 7th place, so he's definitely not improving. Back to Will Devonish. Has he got anything in reserve? No, just gave up the ghost at the end of the day too. So he'll be on the front row though, so that's the important bit. Foley can't improve.
We're close to 104. And the pole time, 104.865. Eclipsed by Stenberg on that lap, so 0.006 of a second quicker.
Knocked off a little bit more.
That's pretty impressive.
So he lowers the benchmark to a 4.865. So that's a new qualifying record, a 4.865. Liam Spencer good enough for 10th, and he will be the last of the runners to get home on qualifying session for tonight's race. So your pole time goes to Kurt Stenberg from Devonish. Colin Warwick and Luke Rosella share the second row of the grid, pretty much as they did, the top 2 rows, as they were at Townsville. Surprise, surprise. Then back to Lewis Wedding. Brendan Ross, with virtually no practice, good enough for P6. Pete Savage, Brenton Foley, Termo, he's had a pretty decent run there, and Liam Spencer. So not too bad at all, Hans.
Good to see Termo up there after a particularly rough run in a couple of different series. He's been a little bit of a punching bag. He's been hit from pillar to post by pretty much every single car in the field, I'm fairly sure. So Termo, he'll be looking for a good run tonight. And, Thomas McMillan, Lime Mitch, and Zach Ross, we're not used to seeing them way down the order, but there they are. And they'll be looking to make up a few places tonight. Not so much of a huge grid tonight as we've seen other nights. 19 cars, still a pretty solid grid around this very short Hidden Valley circuit in Darwin.
Well, speaking of the circuit here at Hidden Valley in Darwin, time to invoke our hot laps for this year, which is a new segment we introduced at the beginning of the year, and we alluded to it earlier. It is the defending champion and the man who dominated this round last year. That's going to take us for a tour of Hidden Valley. So it's over to Brenton Foley.
Hey everyone, welcome to round 8 of the AMS Oz Supercars Championship. We're at Hidden Valley, and as you can see, you're on board with the 074 PBF Race Engineering Holden Commodore. We're coming up to the timing line now on our approach to Turn 1. Turn 1's very tricky. You want to get your braking point spot on, because if you lock a brake, you're going to run wide. Some drivers like to double apex this one. I like to stick to the inside and get a straight exit for the next run down to Turn 4. You want to use all that exit curb and then straight up the gears. Careful at this kink here, you don't want to touch the curb because it will definitely unsettle the car. On the brakes, as soon as you're settled, down to second gear. Want to turn it in early, just touch that curb and then use all the exit curb again. On the approach to the hairpin now, straight down to first gear, slowest corner of the track. Want to get a nice straight exit to set up the next sector. Coming up to this one, bit tricky. On third gear, slight dab of the brake to get it turned in and get the front settled. Then straight on the power up to fourth gear. Then braking down to third gear, touched out inside curb. I ran a little bit wide here, didn't make the best job of it. On the gas again, then slowing down for the last corner, second gear. Want to get a perfect exit here to set up the main straight because it's a make or break straight with it being so big. This sets up the main passing opportunity for turn 1. I hope you enjoyed. This is a lap of Hidden Valley.
Big thanks to Brenton Foley there for volunteering to do our hot lap for Hidden Valley. Well, there it is, 14 turns, 2.87 kilometres long, and tonight's race distance of 90 k's is going to go across 32 laps, Hans. And as we said before, we are already under the qualifying lap record, and I've got a funny feeling that the race lap record's going to go as well.
I think you are correct in your funny feeling there, Steve. 32 laps around here. It's going to get interesting because although the race distance isn't particularly long, the fact that you have to repeat these corners over and over again in a maddening I can't even use my words. In a maddening series of corners, it would be a little bit interesting by the end of the night. You'll be doing that those series of left-handers a total of 64 times tonight, plus qualifying God knows how many times. And those right-hand tyres, they'll be screaming for dear life.
Oh, yeah, they definitely will be. And as you saw on the hot lap there as well, getting out of the groove at some parts of the circuit can punish you. And I know Brenton Foley picked up on himself that he did miss one or two apexes at the beginning of Sector 3, and we did allude to that on the broadcast a little bit earlier, that getting out of that groove is something you definitely don't want to do. It'll open up the avenue for anyone following close behind you to stick their nose and invite themselves down the inside, especially through that last sequence of corners, which come thick and fast. And there really is only meant to be a one-track groove or a one-line groove through that part of the circuit. The one corner we picked up on that we spoke about was turn 6, which is a very, very important turn. After you come out of the hairpin, and Brenton Foley put it perfectly, you've got to use it in third gear. Just dab a little bit of the brake just to transfer the weight to the front end of the car, get the nose turned in and get it spot on the apex, and then you can pick the throttle up just nicely and maximise your corner exit, because you can actually gain probably 2-3 tenths of a second quite happily out of that corner if you're having a bad run. And if you get that corner right, you can pick up quite a nice little bit of speed getting up to the second sector split.
Another thing drivers need to be mindful of is the turn 12 kink to the right in the series of left-handers. If you get on the curb there, it will be very difficult for drivers to actually recover that. I got onto the curb a couple of times in practice trying to push the envelope. And let me tell you, I was on the lock stops. At 540 degrees. It wouldn't go any further. And the car was sort of tracking on a mind of its own. And I was very lucky to straighten the car up, because you're very likely to go towards the right or towards the left and hit a fence for sure.
Yeah. Some of the fences pretty close around here. You can see just on the highlights there just how close some of them are, especially down the front straightaway as well. And we did see in the race last year that crowding drivers over towards some of the fences can be a bit of a problem. And we have seen 1 or 2 penalties handed out over the course of time for failure to leave racing room by crowding people into the nearby fences. Getting some comments coming through on the live chat. Brenton Foley just reminding us that it was a race win for PBF at Hidden Valley in 2018. It was their very first race win in the livery that he is running tonight. So that's why he's decided 2 years on from that historic occasion. They've dusted off that livery and put it in the pack and running it tonight. Also got Brendan Ross is running the Phil Boat car again for the second round consecutively. From a team's perspective, from a team's points perspective, given that they are in a very, very heavy fight at the moment with Loose Sim Sport.
See a couple of practice starts going on the main straight. And it's Lewis Wedding and Wayne Spencer. These cars do have handbrakes, unlike the Super 2 cars, so probably Wayne Spencer will have a bit of an easier time getting these cars off the line. Very difficult to walk these cars off the line without too much wheel spin and making sure they don't bog down either.
And a few drivers also practicing the pit-ins, given that there is a compulsory stop at some point in tonight's 2 races. You must stop to take on tyres and fuel.
I just watched something very humorous. Kurt Stenberg is off track somewhere. God knows where he is, actually. He's actually
cycling trying to find him. Where is he at the minute?
He's in the rally section, in fact. So he's driven off the circuit.
There we go. So let's go and pick up and see what he's done. Oh, yeah, here we go. He's down the access road. Now, I did see him doing this earlier in the night, and I was wondering what was going on. I thought my cameras were playing up. So, yeah, he does know this track obviously pretty well. So he's off having a little bit of fun before tonight's proceedings get underway, no doubt. Getting all that bad energy out of the system.
Cameras here, they're a little bit interesting. If you keep pressing your end key, the spectator cameras, they're in some pretty strange areas.
Yeah, there's a few cameras that look into a couple of different unusual spots when I was noticing earlier on, trying to get a couple of things together for tonight's broadcast. It was a bit unusual. But nonetheless, we've still got some pretty decent trackside cameras, and we are not too far away from getting underway for the first of 32 laps tonight. Pretty decent field, 19 cars is about the average that we've been getting. We actually have had some pretty good turnouts for the GT3 series and GT3 Sprint series a week and a half ago. What a round that was, and coming up again in next week's series of events here at Automobilista Australia. It'll be round 2 of that series on this channel as well. So be sure to tune in for that one. That was really of something completely I've never ever seen before. Some fantastic top draw racing. We hope we get the same of it tonight as well. Let's rattle off this grid, Hans, as they get on the move for the formation lap for first race of tonight's proceedings.
Stenberg off pole with a 1:04.8, new qualifying record for Stenberg, followed by Devonish, who was just tantalisingly close to him. He ended up about, I believe, 15 hundredths of a second off, so very small margin there. Colin Warwick in third, again, a bit like Townsville, like you said. Colin Warwick in third, Luke Rosella in fourth, representing the Volvo of the 1998 retro livery, followed by Lewis Wedding. Good to see his return to supercar competition. And Brendan Ross, he's actually the leading PBF car, which is quite unusual to see as well. But Brendan Ross, little practice, he's come up trumps today in the PBF team battle. Pete Savage, late mistake in his final qualifying lap, left him in 7th, followed by Brendan Foley, representing the livery that he got his first race victory in 2 years ago. 9th place went to Turmo. Turmo will be looking for a clean race tonight. Hopefully he can get a good result up there for CRE Pro B team. Liam Spencer in the top 10, and he's currently winning the Battle of the Spencers right now. Steve Burko, another one of the Volvos, he's just outside the top 10 in 11th. Thomas McMillan, uncharacteristically also in 12th in the Pleb Simsport VB Commodore. Lime Mitch, the Super 2 points leader, and he's actually behind the Super 2 points second place in Steve Burko. He's in 13th. 14th, Cam Rutledge. He's looking to keep quiet and get his nose down and try and work on a good run. Wayne Spencer in 15th in the Domino's Volvo. Zach Ross, uncharacteristically, we're seeing him in 16th. Kalen Duncan, another one of his wildcard appearances in the Nissan Motorsport cars, and the 2 Scuderia Alitalia cars, Brian Walsh and Glenn Miles, bringing up the rear of the field.
I'm going to be interested to see how Colin Warwick gets away from the start here. He was lightning off of the second row of the grid at Townsville and was second by the second corner. So if he gets another one of those hot starts, keep your eye on how he goes. Will he send one up the inside of Stenny on the run into turn number 1? We won't know until we get there. Similarly, I'm also going to be interested to see what Pete Savage can do off of the 4th row. There's rumours that he's not been doing too badly in practice during the week and that he might be on for another podium. So let's keep our eye out for that yellow and black loose SimSport JB Hi-Fi car off of row 4, just on the right of shot there. All right, revs are rising. 19 supercars thump in unison, and we rattle in the top end. Away we go for race 1. And pretty even start off the first row. Colin Warwick didn't get that patented launch that he got at Townsville, but he's right up there in the mix as well. Brendan Ross has had a stellar start all the way up to P2. Had a bit of a sneaky look down the inside at Kurt Stenberg at turn 1, although he might set up the inside again. 3 wide back there as Lewis Wedding tries to buy in on this, and he's going to get the job done on Will Devonish. Fantastic start by Brendan Ross.
Ish went backwards there. Colin Warwick sent him out. Just got 2 wheels on the grass. He couldn't steer any further. And Thomas McMillan, ripper start into 7th as well.
Oh yeah, he's flying up the order as well, challenging Luke Rosella, and now Wedding under attack from Colin Warwick. So already this is kicking off in the opening lap of 32 laps distance tonight. Warwick now gets up to P3, which is where he started. Wedding's advanced a spot. Devonish has gone backwards 3, and Rosella's gone back 3 as well.
Stenberg, he's got around about a 6/10, 7/10 of a second lead. Then Ross, over Ross rather, and Rossi's got a...
Oh, late move. Oh, there's a move there. That's Thomas McMillan having down the inside at the final corner. Rosella's off the road. Rosella was off the road. I don't know whether there was contact there or what happened there. We'll go back and have a look. But have a look at this freight train on the main straight. Let's go back and actually take a look at what happened to Luke Rosella. So through the final sequence of corners here, tucked under Will Devonish's rear wing. I'm just wondering if he maybe got out of the track a little bit. Oh no, there was a touch. Yeah, there was a little bit of a touch, and that's cost him about half a dozen spots. So there was definitely contact there.
Thomas McMillan again into the back of Wedding, and he had to check up in the middle of the corner. That got Steve Burko and Pete Savage into the rear bar of the VB Commodore. Oh, Liam Spencer, big move there.
Big dive.
Steve Burko out wide. And Brenton Foley as well. So Brenton Foley not having an ideal start to the race, but Thomas McMillan, he's been in the wars already. 2 cars that he's made contact with. Lucky that Lewis Wedding can maintain his 5th position right now.
Here we go. Let's have a look at it here. Just off screen, there it was. It was into the back there. Thomas McMillan, we're watching Liam Spencer. Have a look at this dive. So he was on the left side of the circuit. Oh, really did send it. Look for the gap. Little bit of hip and shoulder with Steve Burko. That might be looked at after the race. That's probably coming from a little bit too far back there. But, geez, the opening 2 laps have been nothing short of chaotic.
Well, it's funny because Liam Spencer on his rear wing, it says going to send it. And send it he did.
Well, he sent it all right. He's up to 9th place. He's in behind Brenton Foley, and now his father's in behind him as well. Wayne Spencer's made his way inside the top 10. Already jockeying for position back there. Liam Mitch is having to defend from Rosella, but at the same time he's having to try and attack his son ahead of him as well.
Colin Warwick off at the hairpin.
And Warwick, there he is. He's fallen down the order. He's now vulnerable to Pete Savage as they run through turn 6, and Foley's jumping onto the back of this train as well.
Warwick just made a mistake. He just got it all locked up. So no contact there between Devonish and Warwick. Now challenging for 3rd position. That brings Lewis Wedding into the battle for 3rd. And Thomas McMillan trying to...
Oh, Foley! Accident. Massive accident for Brenton Foley. Big tank slapper. And he's got damage. He's out. He's trying to get into the pit lane. And that's probably a smart call to do. Get into the lane, get the damage repaired, and also get your pit stop out of the way. But wowee. And on top of that, he needs to finish because it's going to be a progressive grid for the 2nd race. So let's have a look from Brenton Foley. Let's go on board through the final corner.
He got on the grass and he gassed it up, and the thing just nosed towards
on the grass. Yep, on the grass.
And he's got a puncture as well, so that was a good move that he managed to get over to the pit lane.
Yeah, made the smart call.
Caused all sorts of dramas for him if he wasn't near the pit exit.
Back to this battle in the mid.
Now he's going to have to make this early pit stop strategy work.
Well, where is he at the minute? Because we're going to have to see if he actually manages to stay ahead of the leader. I don't think he is. Stenberg is coming around the final corner now. Foley's about to leave the pit lane. So let's go up to our race leader because here he is. and Foley is going to get lapped. Foley's going a lap down, so that's a disaster for Brenton Foley. Oh, and he's just having to pick his moment to get back onto track as well. So now that he can run in a little bit of clean air here, hopefully, he might be able to try and make this strategy work, but he's going to have to make his tyres go a long, long way.
Devonish, meanwhile, trying to close the gap on Ross. He hasn't had much luck so far.
Oh, in just a moment, I'm just spotting at the back. I think Luke Rosella's had a moment. Sorry to cut you off there, Hans. Rosella has had a moment down at turn 1 and just struggling to get it fired and get it going. He was in a battle there. I think looks like it might have been with one of the CRE cars.
Oh, he's actually,
oh,
he was
Lime
actually
Mitch,
behind Lime Mitch.
Lime Mitch, sorry. No, here we go.
And he just gassed it up and nowhere to go.
Around turn 1. And just looking for the apex and the outside the corner and stayed out of the fence most importantly. Now picks off one of the Scuderia Alitalia cars in Brian Walsh, moves up to 16. So number of our drivers that have been up the pointy end of the field in recent times already in the wars.
So Will Devonish is about a second faster than Ross on this lap by, and that gap has closed down to about half a second. Even closer on the way to the first sector split.
Well, here goes.
So Ross, lightning start, and just doesn't have the pace to fight at the moment, but judging by Lewis Wedding's pace at the moment and being in a huge battle with Thomas McMillan, he looks like he's probably, and he makes the move, so Devonish gets that done quickly.
Yep, Devonish just done that move done off screen at the hairpin, so there he goes through at the hairpin. We're just keeping an eye on the Colin Warwick, Pete Savage and Liam Spencer battle for a little bit there. Now, Foley will probably get the blue flags pretty quickly when Devonish gets onto his rear bumper, and I'll have to get out of the way. So let's have another look at that pass at the hairpin by Will Devonish. So lined it up beautifully, sent it pretty clearly, and Rossi left him plenty of space, and that's good driving.
Didn't argue the point, he just let him go, knowing that he was faster. Thomas McMillan and Lewis Wedding having a huge battle here.
Switching
Looked
over.
like slot car second as they go in lane change.
Yeah, it looks like that little bit of a cross section you normally have on a scale extric set. And there they go again. Oh, big hip and shoulder. I think
sends him off. Forceful driving there. And we've seen Thomas McMillan, he's usually the one with forceful driving, and Lewis Wedding gave him just enough room and not a little bit more, so that sent Thomas McMillan out over the grass.
Plenty of elbows out between them, and the elbows out has started to allow Warwick and Savage and Liam Spencer to start to catch up to them as well. Now, Colin Warwick had that reasonable start. It's gone backwards with that mistake. Savage is still yet to make the move. He had a little bit of a crack out of turn 1 on the previous lap, but I think for the moment, maybe just content to sit behind that black ZB Commodore for a couple of laps and maybe pull the trigger when there's a mistake, or see if you can force him into a mistake, maybe even go for an undercut with the pit strategy, depending on how that all pans out. Although, having said that, here he goes, down the inside of turn 1. Can he get it stopped? Yes, he can, and gets the block pass on beautifully, but a little bit of Morse code from Colin Warwick there on the run through turn 1.
Buying into the battle as well. So if these two get into each other, Liam Spencer's looking to capitalise. Colin Warwick is going to... Oh, that was brave. That was brave.
Spencer round. No, Spencer's gone. Just gassed it up, trying to stay with the pair of them. Now just got to be careful with the rejoin here, and that's really well done. I was about to say Liam Spencer was showing enormously good patience just sitting in behind that battle, but just when the opportunity was there to maybe have a nibble up into the hairpin, he just gassed up just a little bit too much in his eagerness to try and get there quickly.
Early, and there's a little bit of a bump that comes as you're approaching the exit curb. So unfortunate for Liam Spencer there, but he's got quite a bit of pace on board and definitely a star of the future.
Termo's gone backwards since the opening lights went out as well, so he's faded to 14th place. And a lot of that, I reckon, would have been to do with some of the squabbling that was going on. Probably got caught out in some of the traffic. Although he's trying to pick his way through the field here. Caelan Duncan in the Nissan is his next target. And Duncan's left the door open for him here.
Again, down the inside of Lewis Wedding, makes it stick, goes for the block pass, gets it done.
Yep.
And Lewis Wedding coming back up the inside, he's going for the switchback.
Leaves him the room.
Out.
Oh, here we go. McMillan showing a little bit of elbows out. The same sort of thing that Wedding did to him a couple of laps ago as well as he gets past. Wedding's not having any of this though, fighting it every inch of the way. Oh, Foley off the road. And that'll...
So he's just let his
Oh,
teammate
there's another
Ross
car behind,
pass.
and that's Warwick. Colin Warwick off the road. So that means that he loses touch with Pete Savage, who has got the move done. And Warwick went and did a little bit of lawn mowing there for a moment on the outside of the last couple of corners. Back up ahead though, Lewis, you're not close enough to have a stab at turn 1 on this particular
He's just
occasion.
going the nose. Just a little bit of intimidation.
A little bit of distraction.
Ooh, McMillan, very wide there, very wide.
Yeah, looking...
Just steered wide at the late part of the corner, couldn't get the nose back in. And Lewis Wedding just caught up to him.
Doing your favourite trick there, Hans, trying to V the corner off.
Oh, don't we just love it when we V the corner in
All right.
high horsepower cars? You spend more time accelerating, that means area under the graph. If you're looking at...
Oh.
Oh, Thomas McMillan, mistake.
Yep.
Just locked the rear, skating in there.
Yep, just asked a
And
little bit
Lewis
too
Wedding
much.
capitalising.
Yep, flew through at the in a jiffy. And
Oh, he gets a bit of a return serve from McMillan.
yeah, there was nothing wrong with that one. Oh, look.
Oh, again.
Big opportunistic look at the inside of turn 7 and 8 there as well. So, oh, now
Bit
sends
more
it.
Morse code going on.
Yep, bit more Morse code going on.
That's probably going to be a penalty. I was watching that. From the chase cam view, and that may be a penalty for sure. There was a bit of rub going into the corner.
Here we go, going on board from the roof cam. Let's see what happened here. So Wedding was ahead at this point. Here's the opportunistic dive. Well, that's a big move under braking as well to try and switch to the inside where there wasn't going to be a gap. And, oh yeah, there was
And
definitely a
just
touch in
changed
the rear there.
trajectory.
Yeah,
Just changed the trajectory of Lewis's car to the point that he locked the fronts and steered well wide of the ideal line.
but for the moment, McMillan is in 4th, up 8 spots from where he started, but I sort of tend to agree with you there, Hans. That might be a little bit of a grievance filed after this race is over on that particular move. And as we said earlier, there's only really one line through these sequence of corners. You've really got to get this commitment to the braking zone right at the final corner to command the space you need to run side by side through there. And we've got a lapped runner there. That's the Scuderia Alitalia car, Glenn Miles. Getting
First
out
car
of,
a lap down.
Yep, first car a lap down. Oh, sorry, second car a lap down. The other one being Brent
Colin Warwick
Foley.
in the pits.
All right, that's an early trigger from Colin Warwick. So he's probably decided to get out of the traffic and just try and run in some clear air here. Will Devonish is up to second place, and he's been there for a little while. He's really not making the gains that we probably were expecting of him in the last couple of laps. They were pretty evenly matched the last time around. So Stenberg with a 5.921 to Devonish's 5.975. So not that far away. We did say during the qualifying session that they were both pretty matched through the first sector. And the second sector too. It's this third sector that's the worry for Will.
So Colin Warwick, 10-second pit stop. He's out and running again. And Luke Rosella just got past Liam Spencer for 13th place.
So he's dropped to the tail end of the field as Colin Warwick in behind, Brian Walsh, who is yet to stop. And have we got any more takers coming down pit road at the moment? Doesn't look like it at the moment. So we'll see how all that goes. So Foley with that damage repair obviously is well out of contention here.
Very lucky that accident happened on the entry to the main straight.
Yeah.
Due to the proximity to the pit lane entry. Thomas McMillan, he's solidly in 4th here. He's shaken off Wedding. And Wedding probably left to rue what might have been in this race.
And Brent Foley's caught in the middle of this battle for 3rd now as well. So he'll be wanting to get ahead of his teammate and try and clear off if he's got the pace, but he'll also be wanting to try and find a spot to let Thomas McMillan through with the blue flags that he'll be getting right about now. So I think the main straight's going to be the spot where he gets that done. And you can see the race leads up ahead, and he does just runs a little bit wide there, Brenton Foley, and that allows McMillan to go straight through. So now this will be interesting to see how Brendan Ross goes with holding off the advances of McMillan. Solidly doing sixes, Brendan Ross, so not eye-watering pace, but still very, very handy pace compared to everybody else around him.
He's there or thereabouts, so if anything goes wrong for the top 2 cars, he's definitely there to pounce. And Brendan Ross, good, solid run for him. We haven't seen this good of a run from him for quite a while, actually. So good to see him up there. And we did see him up there again in the Porsche Cup test race, or the Boxer Cup test race.
Yeah, pretty handy behind the wheel.
Very handy behind the wheel, actually. So Brendan Ross will be looking to perhaps get a wriggle on in the Boxer Cup series, starting in early August, I believe.
Yep,
brought to you by Antara Resort Lifestyle Living.
Yep, and that'll be over on the Loose 89 channel as well. So about 1.5 weeks to the first race. Brendan Ross's best result on the season to date is 4th place at race 7, which was the second race at Pukekohe. Pete Savage pulling the trigger, deciding to come in for a stop.
Thomas McMillan making the move on Ross for 3rd place. He goes deep.
Yeah, Rossi seen him coming. Yeah, Rossi saw him coming and left the space there as well. So
noticed on the back of McMillan's car, it says, "Don't follow me, I'm lost too." So he gets a bit of a wriggle on through
over the hump there.
Yeah, so if you keep full throttle on through there.
Just watching on the other side here. Sorry, Hans, as Zach Ross has gone deep at turn 1. He was in this battle pack that was behind Wayne Spencer and Luke Rosella, who'd managed to make his way up to 8th. There goes Rosella, there goes Spencer, there go the CRE cars. And I think Zach Ross was just caught out a little bit in the braking zone at turn 1.
Break.
Onboard shot again. So Rosella had made the move out of the final corner to get past Wayne Spencer. Yeah, brake way too late. Did well to avoid the contact though.
A couple of cars ahead of him. He just lost his braking marker.
It's also a bit hard too, with the approach to turn number 1, you end up with an overlap where you can't always see the braking markers as you approach the corner, and he was in a bit of an awkward spot there.
You can see Thomas McMillan, he just goes out wide and tries to bring the car back. Brendan Ross, more of a traditional one.
All right, we've got a few cars. A few more cars in the lane. Zach Ross following in Termo and Wayne Spencer, so they're in the lane. That means Liam Spencer keeps going through.
So Kalen Duncan has DNF'd actually on the last lap on lap 12.
Yep, so he's out of this one.
So we've got Termo, Zach Ross, Wayne Spencer, and just the 3 cars actually in the pits, possibly. Maybe one more. No, just the 3.
Yeah, they're just the 3 in the pits at this point in time.
Brendan Ross right now, if I wanted to get in front of Thomas McMillan, I'd just dart into the pits and try my luck that way for the undercut.
Well, it's right on the half distance mark here, and I think a number of drivers will probably start to think about pitting around about half distance and split the strategy right down the middle. There's a couple of cars leaving the lane, so that's Wayne Spencer just ahead. Termo having to give way to the traffic that's already a lap ahead. Zach Ross also now goes a lap down. They'll get those laps back when everybody else comes into pit. The guys that won't get their lap back are going to probably be Glenn Miles. And Brenton Foley has actually jumped Termo and Zach Ross in all of this as well. So despite the fact he's had to come in and repair some damage, he's managed to gain a couple of spots at least.
All bad news for Foley at the minute. He needs to get a wriggle on because his teammate up in 4th, he needs a bit of help in the teams championship for PBF Race Engineering. They're in a big battle with Loose Simsport for 2nd place on the teams championship. Oh, Brendan Ross gets a bit sideways there.
All right, now what does he do this time around? Now, Rosella has decided to come in and into the pits on the last lap as well, so he's just ahead of the race leaders. Oh, there's actually a bit of a battle going on for the race lead, so something's happened to Kurt Stenberg in the last couple of minutes. Will Devonish is right on his hammer. What on earth happened there? Stenberg had a bad lap. He had a very, very poor final sector.
Right off the end of the road, he got on that curb, he got on that turn 12 curb, tried to gas it up, and the car just split sideways. And that's the thing. I was on the lock stops. He was probably on the lock stops as well, but you just can't catch it sometimes. And Kurt Stenberg, he's still got the lead, but not by much at the moment.
No, that basically eradicated a 5-second advantage down to about 3-4 tenths. So Will Devenish's eyes will have lit up. They'll be the size of dinner plates at the moment. Now the big question is, what do you do if you Will Devenish? Do you come in and try and affect the undercut now that you've got Stenberg on the ropes?
Pitt is probably the better option. Try and cover him off.
Do whatever he doesn't do. Do whatever he doesn't do. There he goes. Well done. Well done. So he got it stopped well before the line as well. So Cam Rutledge gets a drive-through penalty. That's just exiting the pit, so that's going to be pit lane speeding. There he is in the back is shot. So Stenberg retains the lead. That puts McMillan up into P2. Brendan Ross is going to have a little bit of a look. No, just shows the nose down on the run to turn 1. Just trying to get that distraction going again.
So, McMillan's best lap was a 105.8, but Ross has not done a lap in the 105s. His laps have solely been in the 106s, but his consistency is a lot better than McMillan's at the moment.
Oh yeah, by a long, long way. And that's the good thing about Rossi. That consistency is allowing him to stay on the rear bumper of this Pleb SimSport ZB Commodore quite handily, and is going to bode well when they get to the stops, especially if McMillan keeps making little mistakes like this. If I was Brendan Ross, I'd be doing exactly what Will Devenish has just done. Get in. If McMillan doesn't get in the pits, get in, get the stop done, get into the clean air, turn some good consistent laps, and you'll come out in front.
Devenish is on the move again. Stenberg doesn't go to the pits this lap. I believe Devenish he's just approaching the right-hander into the valley section.
Yep,
turn 5.
So he's clear. And Rossi's done exactly what I just said to do. Get in and get it done. So he's done that. Cam Rutledge is in to serve his drive-through penalty. So
If Michael Floodman Zalavari was here, he would absolutely be frothing over the different strategy calls right now.
Yeah, and he'd be frothing over the fact that people are taking my advice on board, I think, because I think Lewis Wedding once or twice has agreed with me in the live chat about certain strategy calls. The next question will be when our race leader decides to come in and pit Hans. He's got another 12 laps to go after this.
Stole the words out of my mouth. I was going to say the exact same thing. Let's see where Stenberg decides to take service. He's got a 10-second lead, but that's over another car that hasn't taken pits at the moment.
It's over McMillan, and the lane's vacant at the minute. And
no. And so maybe his pace is a little bit better. Maybe he's looking to attack further or perhaps later in the race.
Fastest lap for Luke Rosella is the first of the cars a lap down at the minute. Mind you, he has taken service.
McMillan taking service. He's going to try and cover off
Stenberg's had a moment. He's gone very wide at turn 1. Probably lost a couple of tenths in that one. Don't want to be doing that too often. That'll be what these tyres are just starting to give up the ghost a bit as you ask a bit too much for them. And the downside for Stenberg at the moment is he's going to have to contend with a little bit of lap traffic, although while she does pretty well to get out of the way there and allow Stenny through.
Luke Rosella, he needs to keep this pace up right now because the closer he gets to Stenberg, the less likely he's going to be a lap down. So that will be, or rather not a lap down, so to speak, but he'll be closer to him on the road since he's already a lap down.
And not only that, Brendan Ross has just done on his out lap is a 1:14.8. So, Stenny's had a moment off the final corner too and can't get in the lane. I thought he was going to come in for a minute there, but you're right about Rosella here, Hans. He needs to stay with Stenberg and do these lap times because he was in 8th when he came into the pits, and this is boding well for that little battle with him, and also boding well for setting him up nicely for race 2 tonight as well.
Lewis Wedding in the pits, and Colin Warwick just pulled into the pits and DNF'd, so not sure what's going on there.
That's just a withdrawal from the race. Not sure what's going on there with Cole Warwick. Hopefully we'll get an answer on that one pretty shortly. Good to see the Hans Brunswick fan club is along in the live chat. Hans, some of them actually think you're racing and have had to take a second look to realise you aren't racing. And a little bit of affection. A few people want to start a podcast with you as well.
Everyone seems to be starting a podcast these days, so why don't we get onto it?
We need to resurrect the short shift podcast, I think. Brock Harvey, I'm looking at you.
Perhaps we should. I've got a lot of opinions on a lot of things in racing, and if you would get me on my soapbox, I've got an opinion on a lot of other things as well. And
right, race leader in.
On is Kurt Stenberg. He's probably left the pits a little bit too late here.
Well, coming in with 10 laps to run, so he's really going to sprint hard to the end of this. All right, so here's Will Devenish. We're going to keep an eye on him to see where he shakes in.
Locks it up, goes a little bit wide, gets the nose back in.
And
And he wheels out on the gear change as well.
And Brendan Ross has come out with net third. Wedding is fourth. The Wedding has stopped as well. Thomas McMillan's gone back to fifth. So that strategy for Brendan Ross has worked beautifully to come out with P3.
Love it when you predict the correct strategy, Steve.
Oh, yeah, that's the race engineer in me coming out. I still maintain the fact I've got a 100% winning record when it comes to being a race engineer in sim racing, although it's 1 from 1. It doesn't matter.
Stenberg's out.
All right, and Devenish is behind, so wow.
Nearly seconds behind, so gee. What on earth?
He must have had a tardy lap somewhere. I'm looking down I'm going to have a look at the lap count just to see what he's done, because it's not been... didn't look like he was doing anything terribly wrong. No, he's done 105.
Maybe Stenberg's taking tyres.
Yeah, he's done 105. Yeah, well, that's interesting because you're supposed to, I believe, a tyre change is mandated in the rules. Now, Brent Foley will have to correct me on this one, but it is a compulsory stop for tyres. So if Stenberg's not taken tyres, this could be trouble. I might have to get you just to go and do a bit of a replay, Hans, because this doesn't go back far for me. We might have to check this out.
The rule book. Let's see if we can find... Here we go. Information. Hopefully it is somewhere here. So a compulsory pit stop in each race. It doesn't specify how many tyres you are to take in a pit stop.
It just says you have to take them.
So just says a compulsory pit stop.
Okay.
It doesn't even specify tyres. It just says you've got to take... it just says compulsory pit stop. So tyres or fuel, I believe.
Okay, so
Now,
we'll keep an eye on that one. Then we'll
just trying to read a little bit further into it, and I can't find anything in the group about it. So that is a question that will be answered another time.
Well, it's a question that's been answered right now with Cole Warwick in the live chat saying Stenny did take 4 tyres. So he's definitely done the right thing there. Just a bit of amazing. He's come out with a 3.2 second advantage over Will Devenish. And if I'm looking into the lap times for Kurt Stenberg and Will Devenish, there wasn't a lot of difference as well in the lap times. So something a little bit strange there. That is one of those many unanswered questions I think we're going to have at the back end of this, Hans. We'll have to get the answer straight from the horse's mouth, I think.
Perhaps Devenish didn't get in the pit box correctly, because AMS does penalise you for not getting in the pit box correctly.
That's all it could possibly be, actually. So let's have a look at the in-laps. So the in-lap for Will Devenish was a 41.5, and his out-lap was a 15.2, and then Stenberg, the in-lap was a 36.2 to a 14.6 on the out-lap. So there you go. So it must have been something in the pit lane. Now, it could have been damage. It could have been... as you said, a bad entry into the box. So whatever's happened in the pit sequence has hurt Devenish enormously there. So what was going to be a strategy masterstroke has unfortunately come undone because something's gone awry during the pit sequence.
So another race victory goes begging for Will Devenish, or will it? And there's still time to go in this race. There's still 7 laps by.
Still setting quick laps. So Stenberg responds with a 105.2 to Devenish's quick laps, and Devenish the last time around a 105.235. So not that much further behind. Sorry, 105.3. Not that much further behind. But he had set a couple of quick laps, so was starting to try and reel that gap in. But again, this is that circuit, or one of those circuits, where you don't have the luxury of gaining huge chunks of time. Now, there's a battle that's starting to get a little bit interesting back here as well. Wedding is just starting to lose a little bit of time to Thomas McMillan behind, although on this lap, McMillan's lost a little bit of time in Sector 1. Not very much, but just a little bit. If you cycle back through the field, Pete Savage is holding down 6th comfortably. The next real battle is for 13th and 12th. That's Zach Ross and Liam Spencer. These two have been glued at the hip for about the last 3 laps.
Interesting to note that Colin Warwick DNF due to shifter, a broken shifter, I believe. So He's just said in the live chat his shifter is broken, and he doesn't race paddles either. So
No, he has had some trouble with the wheel, I think, earlier on in the year as well, if memory serves me correctly, Colin. I remember you saying something about that along the line, that your wheel wasn't operating correctly, and not the only person to have some shifter troubles recently as well. I've been seeing a few guys having dramas of some nature. I believe even a couple of people have broken some shifter paddles too. So, because it's one thing we use quite a lot in sim racing, so it's one thing you don't want to fail.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. But I'm actually very impressed with Brendan Ross's performance. He's taken service at the correct time. And
made it work. Ooh, little bit of a nudge there. Sorry, Hans, bit of a nudge there from Liam Spencer on the back of Zach Ross going into the final corner. And they're about to be lapped, if they're not quick enough, by the race leader who's behind them. Drag race between these two down to turn number 1. It's going to hold your nerve. And will everyone...
Wait on the brakes again. Lock the brake.
And he's outside.
Boonies.
Here he goes. So that puts pay dirt to that particular battle, and pretty much now everybody's in a run to the finish. Now, Luke Rosella, we did say he needed to put some pretty important laps in to try and maintain that 8th place he was in when he came into the pit. So he's gone down to 9th and fighting hard to now get past Lime Mitch's Mustang.
Mitch up 5 positions from the start. He goes to the inside. He's made his one move. That's brave.
Yeah, but so they're playing snakies down the front straightaway, and now trying to go right around the outside is Luke Rosella. Can he get the drive off the first corner? He can. He hangs with it. He's going to come out with 8th place. What a brilliant move. Round the outside at turn 1.
Hung tough around the outside, but Lime Mitch has got the inside for turn 5, and he's not quite close enough. So move Rosella up to 8th. Very solid performance there.
Here we go. Here's that move again down to turn 1. Big move right around the outside there. Left into space on the inside.
You can see Lime Mitch, he was snaking, but he got it all done before the braking zone, so that's good. No issues there. And that won't be a penalty after all. Thomas McMillan, he's, I guess, languishing down in 5th, considering he did get up into 3rd earlier in the race before the sequence of pit stops.
Yeah, and he's lost touch with Lewis Wedding now, and Wedding's starting to make a late charge for the podium here. Brendan Ross is going to really have to have his elbows out. Now, I believe these two have got a little bit of history. I think there may have been a bit of rubbing, I think, at Pukekohe in the second race, if memory serves me correctly, after that safety car restart, where Wedding really had his elbows out, and so too did Rossi. So keep an eye on this little battle over the next 3 laps. That commences in about 15 seconds time.
New fastest lap of the race, Kurt Stenberg, 105.082.
So well inside the race lap record now from last year, so wiped nearly 6.5 tenths off of that one. Good to see our mate Benjamin Rhodes, aka Rhodey, in the live chat, watching along as well, cheering on Rossi, hoping you can hear him from his hospital bed, believe it or not, folks. He's unfortunately been a late withdrawal tonight and late rush to the hospital, so we send our best wishes to Rhodey and wish for a speedy recovery, whatever the ailment happens to be. But PBF satellite team he drives for in Supercars, so therefore cheering on his stablemate in this battle over the final step on the podium.
Also noticed Phil Boak is in the chat as well, so hello Boki. Hopefully you can join us again soon in Supercars. He did join us for ATCC last night for a cracking race, and he was driving one of the Texaco BMWs. His teammate was Mike Coulston, the Saudi Camel. Yeah,
Will Devenish getting another win last night as well, I'm led to believe. That's 2 on the bounce for him in ATCC, but not having the same joy here in Supercars at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a bit cruel that whatever's happened in the pit stop for Devenish, he was definitely made less mistakes in this race, barring that costly pit stop. You see Wedding really get onto the back of Ross here with a couple of laps to go. This is the penultimate lap, and can Ross hold Wedding off. He needs to go defensive in a turn 5 here. Park in the middle of the road. That's it.
There, does the right
That's
thing.
the way
there.
you do it. Just slow it right down. Carry the brake to the apex and maximise that exit. Maybe not so much important to go defensive here.
Wedding's
but
trying to go the
he's
long way.
wide.
Set him up for the over and under, and it's going to put him on the wrong side for turn 6 though, so Rossi can try and hold him here, or Wedding's going to try and command it around the outside.
Just on the grass. Very lucky not to spin there for Lewis Wedding. But that is some tough racing, and he did leave him room. But Wedding probably asking a bit too much of the car as it just went over the curb. So with 1 lap to go, looks like Stenberg, another certain race victory. I mean, nothing is ever certain. If anything can happen, and it usually does.
These two want to be careful here. Sorry, Hans. These two want to be careful here because McMillan has made a little bit of ground on them through that little bit of side-by-side action that these two had on the last lap. So these two don't want to come to blows anytime in the next 30 seconds or so because McMillan will be right there.
Wedding is close enough at the moment. He wasn't close enough in turn 1. He might potentially try the up and under move. And Ross, again, parks in the middle of the road. Come on, carry the apex. Carry the brake to the apex again. Just try and ruin the run for the car behind. He goes very defensive into the hairpin.
Yep, doing the same thing again. Wedding's going to try the over and under here. And Rossi did the right thing. He big sideways slide. And Wedding's through. So we're going to quickly pick up the race winner. So Kurt Stenberg's going to get the race win comfortably over Will Devenish for this one. There's Devenish, but the real battle is this one here. Is Rossi going to send it at the last corner? Is he going to send it at the last corner?
Thomas McMillan, he just straight line turn 12. Just went across the grass. It's pretty interesting sort of line.
So Wedding's going to hang on. Wedding's going to hang on. I don't think Rossi's too happy about that one.
I think he was more impressed with the racing potentially, or maybe not. Who knows?
I might go back and have a look at the Thomas McMillan moment.
Kart track.
Let's have a look at the Thomas McMillan moment that you were talking about. So, yeah, just a little bit of a wiggle. Got backside of the curb. Didn't gain any advantage though.
He says, I will interpret my own track.
There he's done. Pete Savage home for 6th place from Steve Burko, Luke Rosellis of Volvo 7th and 8th. And then Lime Mitch and Termo rounding out the top 10. So, end of the day, we ended up with 2/3 of the field home on the lead lap. Brenton Foley down in 15th. This is something we are not accustomed to seeing. He is going to have an awful amount of work to do at the commencement of the next race.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting to note the top movers in the field. So just looking through the field right now. Thomas McMillan up 7 spots. Steve Burke up 4 spots. Luke Rosella went backwards 4 spots, unfortunately for him. And Lime Mitch up 4 spots as well. So forceful driving from those guys. They were able to make a few positions. And Brenton Foley down 7 positions. And another sad story for... where is Termo, actually?
So he finished in 10th.
So it wasn't so bad in the end for Termo, actually. So good solid run for Termo. Probably a bit more incident-packed than he would have liked. But good to see Termo has made it to the finish without so much of damage. And top 3, Kurt Stenberg, Will Devenish, Lewis Wedding. Good solid result there for those guys.
Yeah, a couple of guys in that one sort of didn't have ideal races, did they? So Luke Rosella was up inside the top 2 rows of the grid when he started the race, finished in 8th place after having that little bit of a moment, recovered pretty well. Brenton Foley's probably the biggest loser out of that one, having started well up the grid and then finishes down in 15th. And just a few drivers asking just a little bit too much of their race cars, I think, in that one, Hans.
Especially on older tyres, these cars are not very pretty to drive, and something is to be said about the physics. Perhaps it doesn't accurately represent the supercar, as it seems to be a little bit too taily and lock brakes a bit too easily. But everyone's got the same package to deal with, and it's a matter of tuning that to your liking and being able to make a few consistent laps. We've got a couple of the podium place getters here. We're missing our race winner. So we'll just wait a minute if he can wander his way back to the rostrum.
Well, let's start from 3rd place upwards.
Let's go in a descending order, and we shall do that. And Lewis Wedding, good to see you back on the podium, and you got it done on the very last lap.
Yeah, it's quite surprising to be here, to be honest. But yeah, I drove a really good race. I didn't make a mistake all race. Not even a minor mistake, which is quite rare. So, I thought for a moment after the pit stops that Rossi might have been too far ahead, but I was able to just pull him in, and on the last lap, anything could happen, and he made a slight mistake, and I got it done.
Did going a bit longer on the first set of tyres help you to make that move on Rossi?
It may have. I don't know what his tyres are like, but I was able to catch both him and McMillan at the end of the first stint. See, they were battling, but I think their tyres just fell away a little bit. And in the second stint for me, I ran out of fuel as across the start finish line. So on light fuel and with the setup I had, it was quite good. So I was able to reel him in. I was going faster in the race. I'm pretty sure what I was doing in qualifying, and was able to get home. So really good result for the team. Unlucky for Rossi, really, because that's one of the best races he's, I think, ever driven. So it's a shame he couldn't quite get on the podium, but obviously it's good for us to get on the podium and pick up some good points.
Well done, Lewis. It helps you in the team's championship. Congratulations on a stellar third place tonight.
Thank you.
On to our second place getter, Will Devonish. And Will, what on earth happened in that pit stop?
Yeah, I didn't calculate fuel correctly at the start, so ended up putting more in than I should have needed to in the pit stop. So it ended up being another 3 or 4 seconds longer than Kurt. So unfortunately, he was able to be a significant distance up the road when he popped out. So sort of the race that could have been. But yeah, happy with the performance of the car tonight. We're going neck and neck with Kurt, so really happy with that. The rest of the guys on the team had a bit of an average race, but we all finished, so we can't ask for more than that at the moment.
Yeah, good showing by yourself, but hopefully in the next race with your setup, maybe you can go a bit further.
Never know.
Congratulations, Will, on a good second place, and all the best for the next race. Hopefully you can go one step better. It might help your team's championship. Your driver's championship.
Do what we can.
And Kurt Stenberg, another race victory, another pole position, and the qualifying and race lap records to boot. Kurt Stenberg, fantastic. Well done.
Thanks, mate.
So just a couple of mistakes creeping in on the older set of tyres, just probably pushing the older set of tyres a bit too hard.
Yeah, that's it, mate. I got caught on that little curb around the back, second lap corner, and spun myself off onto the grass. But lucky the track maker, he put a bit of tarmac there, so good bloke. So I managed to get back on the track.
The track maker he's referring to is one K Stenberg from Perth. So thanks to Mr. Stenberg from Perth for doing a really good job for the track. But again, another really good performance, and just shows that you have to have all the 1%ers lined up to be able to get a race victory.
Yeah, that's it. I was actually surprised in the pit cycle, so it makes sense what happened with Will. I thought Will was going to jump me because I didn't drive very well when I was out there by myself. So thought he was going to jump me. Was very relieved to find that he didn't. Put the right amount of fuel in. Car feels good. I'm pretty confident for this next one, but so hopefully we can go 2 from 2.
Now, in the next race, are we potentially going to see another race lap record, maybe into the 4s even? Are you confident?
Well, I thought at one point there in that second stint I could do a 4, but tyres just eventually went away and there was a bit of traffic and just didn't happen. So I reckon a 4 is definitely there on race trim. It's just extracting the car, and it's going to really depend on where the competition is relative to myself and where in which I pit. If you want to go for the fastest laps, you really need to pit at the end there with the light fuel load and have a go.
Another race victory for Kurt Stenberg, following on from another pole position, and fantastic effort, mate. Well done.
Thanks, guys.
So, Steve, those were our podium place getters for race 1 this evening, round 8, the top end twin sprint, and another race to go tonight. Progressive grid format, so they will start as they finished.
They certainly will. So a number of guys have done themselves plenty of favours in that particular race by finishing as far up the order as they did. So Brendan Ross is going to have a pretty handy starting position out of P4 for this next one. And a number of other drivers have sort of found their way up into the top 10, so they'll be in good position to start, but then there will be a few guys out of position that are going to have a little bit of work to do. Well, what we're going to do right now is the commentary team is going to have a 1 or 2 minute break, and we've got a little something special for you which we're about to reveal. Now, we did on the last broadcast we did on this channel, the GT3 Sprint Series, reveal that we did have a special announcement that was going to be made this particular round. So while we have a little bit of a break, we will let that little bit of information be revealed.
The party looked familiar. A case of deja vu. Is this where it will happen? The connection of two. Conversation hopeful. The mind begin to soar. The answer is revealing. Try another door.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. The first special event since last year's 2019 Bathurst 3 Hour, and the return of an event that last ran in 2018, which was then part of the Supercars Championship for Automobilista Australia, in a race which famously only 3 cars finished. We're hoping to go a little bit better this time around. It is the return of the AMS Oz Bathurst 500. It'll run on the 22nd and the 25th of October. So qualifying and shootout night is Thursday the 22nd, and race is during the day on October 25th. So I'm already hearing some rumblings on the ground that there are a number of quick pairings that are starting to emerge as possible contenders for this race, and overnight all the information you need to know will be launched on the Discord page, including the registration. So we look forward to seeing what driver pairings finally do emerge as contenders for this race. It'll be broadcast here on the Outworld Broadcasting channel with myself in commentary, and an unconfirmed commentary lineup, as I believe there might be a couple of people that normally do commentary interested in racing in this one. Hans, this is something I think a number of drivers have been looking forward to and rubbing their hands together for the better part of the last couple of weeks, because it's been a pretty poorly kept secret amongst a number of drivers for a little while now. Oops, sorry, Hank. 2 seconds, Hans. I've actually just Rhodey's just made me aware that you didn't have your mic muted, so I've unfortunately cut a little bit of that stuff off. But we did just very quickly for those that were missing in the chat. Thanks for reminding me, Rhodey, that I didn't unmute Hans there for a second. It's a bit hard when he's going to something we're used to with him being here in the studio, and he's not here this particular round. But we did say he's definitely looking forward to it, and he has seen your comments there about being ready for potentially for competing in this one, and he's calling it a win for you already.
Yeah, look, I'm not too sure about a win, but I will be driving with Steve Burko, and Burko will be the main driver. He's got a lot more pace than me, I think, so, and a lot more consistency. So hopefully I can just be a good part of the team, and I'll just drag the car home and bring it back to him in one piece, and he can do the rest of the work. So it will be good, and hopefully I can get my commentary hat on during the off stints as well. So it will be an interesting race, and it will be good to see. A few more guys there. It will be good to see a packed field, and plenty of quality drivers to be there. Get well soon, Rhodey. Make sure you do some practice and get your Mount Panorama laps up, because it will be an absolute cracker of a race.
And the one thing that we do need to point out here, ladies and gentlemen, as well, that given that this has now been officially launched, it does mean there is a slight change to the Supercars calendar this year. So if we go and bring up our Supercars calendar, for those that are the very, very keen-eyed observers, you'll note that this has now been reduced to a 14-race season. The 12th race of the season was meant to be the Bathurst 1000 we had in there for pretty much the first half of the season. Now that we have got the Bathurst 500 going, that means that the Supercars Championship loses the Bathurst round as it becomes a standalone event. So effectively tonight, at the start of tonight, we were approximately halfway through the Supercars season. So still, the rest of the calendar is unchanged. The rest of the dates on the calendar are unchanged. All it means is that the Bathurst round has been removed and is now a standalone event in its own right. It is an event that does require a co-driver, so there are no single pairings for that one. There will be some co-driver minimums, there will be a broadcast, and there will be some sponsorship opportunities for that one as well. If you work in some small businesses and want to get your name out there and get it on the stream, we'd be more than happy to get your name up on some of the ad boards as well. So please look out for all the information coming up in the next 24 hours that'll be revealed. Well, we are just ticking down the last little bit of the warm-up session before we get to the commencement of race 2. I believe they're just getting ready to set the grid. There's a couple of drivers that haven't made it back. One of those we know is Colin Warwick, who unfortunately has had his shift to break, and Kalen Duncan has made it back. We found that he's had an internet drama, so he's managed to get himself going again. There's just one more driver we're yet to have come back into the session. I'm just trying to work out who that is. Hans, have you got any idea who it is? I'm just trying to quickly rattle it off on the top of my head.
It's Kurt Stenberg, actually.
Kurt
Stenberg is back in the game.
Oh, it's Brennan Ross. There we go.
Brennan Ross, that's right, yeah.
Rossi not back in the server just yet, so as soon as he gets back in, I believe we'll be right and ready to go. And we've got to set the grid, unfortunately, when everybody is back in the server. We can't, unfortunately, set it while other drivers are out of the server. But we'll have a look at what's going on in the warm-up session for the better part of the next 3 minutes or so. So Kalen Duncan getting his laps back under his belt, having only completed 12 of them in the race. And looks like Pete Savage is out there as well.
Just noticed as well, Nathan Higginson in the chat. We're all eager to see the 1993 to 2002 Group 3A V8 Supercars Australian Touring Cars mod. That'll be fantastic. Very keen for that. And the previews are just getting better all the time. There's been the green-eyed monster up there. I believe the FTR Ford that was featured in Gran Turismo, and also the Holden Young Lions Commodore, amongst others. So very fantastic work there to get it all going.
Absolutely. And the latest thing I think we'd seen as well is the dashes starting to come together as well from some of the the EL and the EB Falcons that's starting to really look like they truly belong. I think there was a couple of dramas with getting the actual in dashboards themselves to function, like with the rev count and those sorts of things, but starting to look very, very much like it did back in the day as well.
Yeah, it's actually period correct. In fact, some of those, the EL and the Air Fords, they've got the Pi Research dash. I can't remember what it's called, actually. It's a Pi Research dash, but the model name I can't recall. But it was a very popular option amongst teams in the 90s across many fields of touring car racing and even GT racing.
Yeah, speaking of GT racing, we're very much looking forward to the resumption of the GT3 Sprint Series next week, brought to you by Antara Resort Style Living. That'll be on this channel, and it'll be a visit to the Bend Motorsport Park for the second time this year with Automobilista Australia, the first time having been for the TCR Series earlier in the year, and we've also got the Supercars event a bit later on in the year. It'll actually be the finale this year, the Bend 200, which will take place in early December for Supercars. Now, Brendan Ross is back in, and a number of drivers looking like they're heading into the lane, practicing the pit-ins, and I think we're probably not too far away from getting a grid set and getting ourselves up and running again. Now, I'm wondering whether or not... now, Brendan Ross looks like he's still in the Phil Boak car. We're just waiting to get the grid being set, and here we go. So we will be set to go racing in about a minute's time here, Hans. Do you think we're going to see more of the same?
Barring any mistakes, which obviously is in the driver's hands, I can't predict that, but barring any mistakes, we're probably going to see a bit of a closer battle between Stenberg and Devonish, I believe.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the pair of them go for a run down into turn one, given that they pretty much had a very even start in race number one. We're keeping an eye out to see now that Lewis Wedding's got a bit of clear track, being a row further forward than he was in the last race, whether or not he can get a good launch off the line and maybe challenge. We did see a couple of three wide moments going into the final corner as well, so with a bit of luck, that will all present itself again. Be an interesting run into the first corner, and maybe we come out the other side with a few places having changed hands.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Rossi can get the lightning start that he got in race one. These cars having handbrakes makes it a little bit easier to walk them off the line, just get them going, and obviously once you're up and going, then the sky is the limit. These cars, plenty of horsepower, but getting them off the line, grip is not their specialty.
No, certainly not. There's a few drivers that have seemed to have mastered it pretty well. One of the drivers that I'm very, very impressed with how they start these cars is Lime Mitch. In Super 2, he's an absolute demon off the back rows of the grid when it comes to the reverse grid format. Hasn't had the same success here though, but some of his starts have been absolutely unbelievable in Super 2. And there's a couple of drivers in here that definitely know how to get him off the line as well. We saw last round out, Colin Warwick had a pretty good launch off of second row of the grid at Townsville. Couldn't quite replicate it this time around. And I think even you and I have both had a couple of moments in Super 2 getting them off the line pretty well as well. So it can be done, it's just being able to do it consistently.
There is a method to the madness, and again, we're going through the method to the madness tonight. Kurt Stenberg, race win in race one, progressive grid. He takes the pole in race two. Devonish off the front row of the grid in second once again, and Lewis Wedding in the loose SimSport car, he is in third. Late race move on Brendan Ross, which pushed him back to fourth. Thomas McMillan in fifth, might go for the earlier pit strategy potentially this time. He had his elbows up during the race. Pete Savage, he was up one spot from his starting position in seventh. Steve Burko, very good run through the field. He got up 4 positions, and now he is in seventh. And Luke Rosella, he'll be looking to make up for a little bit of a disaster in race one, but he's not down and out quite yet. Lime Mitch, let's see if he can replicate one of his lightning starts in Super 2, the Super 2 points leader. And Turmo in 10th after a pretty solid race. Managed to stay out of most of the trouble, so good work, Turmo. Hopefully he can continue that. Wayne Spencer in the Domino's car. He will be out from 11th, I believe. That's similar to where he started from last race, I'm not sure. Liam Spencer, his son, will be off in 12th, so the battle of Spencers there heating up. Zach Ross in 13th after a couple of mistakes out in the grass at the exit of, or rather at the outside of turn 1, the hairpin. Cam Rutledge in 14th. Hopefully he doesn't get another drive-through penalty. Brenton Foley looking for a better race this time. Look for a lightning start from him through the field. And then the final few cars on the grid. Brian Walsh in 16th. Glenn Miles in 17th. And Stone plumb last. Kalen Duncan. Hopefully he doesn't have another internet disconnect because he was going quite well in the race. He got 12 laps in. Let's hope he can get further.
Yeah, he was doing pretty well to hold his own until the dreaded gremlin struck. All right, the animals lining up 2 by 2. Pete Savage trying to get a bit of temperature into those front tyres as well, pretty aggressively warming those up on the run. Oh, Stenberg just overshot the box there, had to grab reverse gear. And a couple of drivers doing the same as well.
Picked up reverse gear there.
All right.
Lewis Wedding again.
Pair of Holdens, a Ford and a Holden, and a Holden and a Ford, and then a pair of Volvos on the first 4 rows. Let's go racing for race 2 of a top-end twin sprint. Away we go. Poor start, Will Devonish. Kurt Stenberg got a very, very good launch, and that also means that Will Devonish is going to be having to box on here with Thomas McMillan and Lewis Wedding, who's split the middle. Thomas McMillan goes through to P2 at the opening corner. Devonish is going to have to fight hard around the outside here to maintain P3 because Wedding's right there.
See, that was brave from Thomas McMillan. You usually don't want to be the car in through the middle because it can end in tears very quickly. Side by side, Lewis Wedding and Will Devonish, who will yield. And no one's yielding quite yet. And advantage Devonish at this stage. So Lewis Wedding didn't quite get such a good run. Wedding, not Wedding. I don't even know what I'm saying. Devonish goes a bit defensive. Brendan Ross, he is actually gone down 1 position as a result of that lightning start from McMillan. And Burko starting to lose touch with the train of 5 cars between 2nd and 6th there.
It's a good ripper start for McMillan here. I don't think Devonish will waste any time trying to get past him. If he gets an opportunity to make the move down here at turn 1, he's going to get it done. But he's got to get a good run off of turn number 14, not like Rossi did behind him, who's now vulnerable to Pete Savage coming off the final corner. McMillan knows he's already vulnerable here to Devonish. He's going to try and make it go the long way round. Got to leave him the room. And he does, and Devonish goes right around the outside, but McMillan opens the steering up and just runs him a little bit wide just to box him out there. And they'll continue the battle up to turn 4. Pete Savage could not get the move done on Brendan Ross, and Rossi's fought it back through the opening corner, and now has to make Savage go the long way around at turn 4.
Oh, I think Ross had steered a bit wide of the ideal line there, and they made side-to-side contact. Peter opened up the steering and got out of it very quickly. And also of note, Brenton Foley is up to 9th already after 1 lap, up 6 positions, and he was in a bit of a bumping match between, Luke Roselli, he's on the grass.
Right out sideways.
Right out sideways, as a Mr. M. Scaife would say.
Oh, and have a look at this. Pete Savage gnawing away on the back bumper of the 046 Commodore through turns 9 and 10 there. Look at this.
Just a note at the end of the first lap.
Oh, big swapper for Lime Mitch. Big swapper for Lime Mitch. Did a Brenton Foley, got on the grass in back of shot, but somehow managed to save it.
I was just about to mention Lime Mitch because they were in a bit of a bumping match at the final corner on lap 1, and it was advantage Foley then. So Lime Mitch, bit of a struggle at the moment. He's gone backwards, so not a lightning start that we usually see from him.
Burko got a love tap from Foley going round turn 1 as well. That Volvo pitched sideways, and Burke had to grab a fistful of opposite lock on the exit of turn 1. Foley very, very aggressive on this opening couple of laps. As you said, already up 6 places, eyeing off P number 8 at the moment. The Volvos are tucked in behind the Brendan Ross and Pete Savage battle, and they had nowhere to go. Foley was right on their hammer. And now Devonish has not been able to pull the trigger on Thomas McMillan just yet, who's pretty much almost like a rear gunner at the moment for Kurt Stenberg, as Stenny skips away out in front at the moment. and they're all lining up to have a go at each other yet again down into turn 1. This little freight train that just wants to snake its way down the straight. Now Pete Savage has decided he wants to go for an overlap here. Rossi's going to have to leave him some room.
Oh, they're going to go 3 wide.
Rosella.
They're going to go 3 wide. Luke Rosella.
Oh.
No, not quite. Luke Rosella thinks better of it.
Savage will get through here. I was about to say I thought Rosella was going to be the last of the late breakers there going into turn 1. Might have got a 2-for-1 special. But now he's looking to switch to the opposite side for Brendan Ross, who's just under siege in these opening 3.5 laps right now.
Probably the best thing to do for this group at the moment. Don't try and battle each other too hard. Just let Devonish get to the back of McMillan and try and get them into a battle so you can start to overtake them. Interesting to note that McMillan drives a Pleb Sim Sport. Actually, that is in fact... Rossi's around.
Nearly around.
Oh, that looks very brave there. But on the point of McMillan, acting like a rear gunner for Stenberg, Pleb Sim Sport being Stenberg's team, that Stenberg doesn't drive for. So
no.
Jason Bright FPR Britex sort of arrangement there. And look at Devonish. He's chasing him onto the other side of the road, and McMillan's there. He's going to make it hard for him.
He certainly is. And again, McMillan...
Oh, Devonish last of the late breakers. Look at that.
Right around the outside.
He's going to go off the road.
No,
he got a nudge at the very critical part of the corner.
And he's going to be careful with the rejoin here as well. He's going to come on right in the thick of this battle, and Rossi's around. Now, did Rossi get a tap from anybody there? That's the point in question. He has got to let all this traffic go, and he's going to rejoin Stone Cold, well, not Stone Cold Motherless last. He's going to be third to last out of all of that. That was a wild moment for Devonish, having to negotiate this traffic. Let's have a look at it from the rear onboard. Let's see if he got a love tap from anybody here, or if he did it all on his own.
From
Rosella. There was contact between Rosella and Ross on that one. Now, I don't know if that was because Rossi looks like he may have come across a little bit. That's one that'll probably be looked at after the race just to see what happened there. I'd be most keen to see what happened as well. But it unfortunately means that Brendan Ross is down in 16th place, and, well, somebody was... I'm always worried when there's big battle packs like that and like this, because it means that something has got to give, and unfortunately it was Brendan Ross in that circumstance.
Ross has been spilt, but Will Devonish, I think he did get a little bit of a tap on the left rear quarter from McMillan. So I was just looking at that again from a few different angles, and it was the lightest touch, and Will Devonish, he probably wasn't going to make the corner, but he wouldn't have gone as wide as he actually did in the end.
No.
Very small tap, just unloaded the car at the critical moment.
And on top of that as well, the opening of the steering probably as well, just to run Will a little bit wide as well, probably didn't help the cause, but it's a bit of a defensive tactic, that one, but you've got to make sure you allow your fellow competitor enough space.
All this a bit wide, turn 11.
All this is music to Kurt Stenberg's ears, though, given that he is some nearly 6 seconds, or will be over 6 seconds up the road from Thomas McMillan at the conclusion of this lap for them, and there it is, 6.1 seconds on your graphic on the left-hand side of the shot there, as Will looks to try and size up a move here on Wedding down into turn 1. Again, the last of the late breakers, and there's contact, and Will probably wasn't close enough alongside there, but they've somehow managed to escape. This is
4 laps, so not going well for him.
No, not going well for Brian Walsh, and I know Walsh was caught in a little bit of a dilemma at the beginning of proceedings tonight. His beloved doggies were playing on the Gold Coast against the Suns, and he was most keen to watch it, but I don't think the result was going the right way, and probably similar way to the way his race has just gone after 4 laps and over and out.
He's on the back of Will Devonish here. He's giving him a big hurry up. And they're in a sandwich at the moment. It's Lewis Wedding in 4th, Will Devonish in 5th, and Luke Rosella in 6th. And look who's in the background there. We see Foley has actually got past Burko, and he gapped him as well. So Foley, he's looking to get a wriggle on in this race.
Yeah, he's pulled the trigger finally, Brenton Foley. Just much like Devonish, he's going to try and pull the trigger now, and Wedding now. He's much closer and alongside this time. Oh, look at this. Sneaky opportunity from Luke Rosella. Makes use of the wedge that Devonish has created, and means Wedding's going to possibly lose 2 spots here, although he hasn't got the traction out of turn 1, and Wedding's going to hold on to P5 albeit probably temporarily.
Savage is looking to make inroads on McMillan. And it looks like he's doing pretty well so far. He just needs to keep the consistency up. Definitely one of the standout performers of AMS Oz in the recent past. Pete Savage has been coming to the fore in the GT3 series, in both the endurance and the sprint series. And McMillan, a bit of a lock break into the final corner, steers wide of the ideal line. Probably couldn't get on the power early enough. But the gap is opening up to Pete Savage.
It certainly is. Oh, there's a bit of a moment back around line. Mitch has had a bit of a coming together. I've just seen it on the other shot with Liam Spencer, and Spencer's gone around in the last couple of corners, and that looked like there was some contact there between himself and Lime Mitch. So we'll go back and take a little bit of a look to see what happened there.
Contact, Steve.
No contact.
Sorry. He got on that curb and did it all on his own. Again, the turn 12 curb.
Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. Sorry, when I was looking on the other side of shot, I saw Lime Mitch was nearby, so I apologise to Lime Mitch for that one. That is all on Liam Spencer, all on his own.
Down to fifth, so Will Devonish has gotten the move done somewhere. He's probably got it done. Sorry, apologies. I mean, Luke Rosella is in fifth.
Very temporarily, and he's now lost that back to Lewis Wedding.
And who's on the back of this battle? It's Brent Foley. He's got there pretty quickly. He's got his skates on.
Oh, Wedding's wide. Yep, big mistake from Wedding at the final corner. That allows Rosella through. It allows Foley through. I think Foley got the better run off the final corner as well, but now the problem for him is he's out wide, and he needs to be, again, the last of the late breakers and go right round the outside. But not on this occasion. Just falls back into line and settles for 6th place for the beginning of lap 10. Now, Pete Savage is now under siege here. Now, Brendan Ross looks like he's come in from all of that that incident that he had earlier on and has actually stopped, and now getting the lights from the cars behind to say, get out of our way, which he obliges.
Out of the way. Now, Peter, under attack from Devonish. Let's see if we can hold on to 3rd place. Potentially letting Devonish by might be the better option here. Let him catch up to McMillan, have a bit of a battle, bring him back to you.
Yeah, there's 2 schools of thought here, I think, isn't there, Hans? The first school of thought is you want to fight over every position because you want that podium finish. But the second school of thought is let the faster car go and use them to drag you up to the car ahead, which Devonish has got the superior pace and will probably do when it gets back to McMillan again. And if they come to blows like they did a couple of laps ago, Savage will be there to take over the spoils.
What's interesting is that you should really only be able to make a pass if you're able to decisively do it like Devonish did just then. If you're trying to make the pass every single lap and sending it and you're just not far enough, or you just don't have the drive out of the corner, you're basically killing time for the both of you. So in that sense, letting the quicker guy go past is actually a much better option in terms of the net gains involved.
For a short time as well, Pete Savage was slightly quicker than Thomas McMillan. He was about a 10th or so quicker a lap, but the inroads in probably the last lap weren't all that flash. There's a yellow flag down here in Sector 3, and that's one of the Scuderia Alitalia cars having a bit of a moment there. The only one remaining is Glenn Miles. So
Scuderia Alitalia,
it was
bit of a blown engine. Blown engine for Thomas McMillan.
Oh, here we go. There it is. So McMillan's had a blown engine. He gets to get out of the way. That is terrible, terrible driving, staying on the racing line. So McMillan's had a moment. That's affected everybody behind, so he's not recovering from that one. And off the road at the final corner, at the beginning of the first corner. So let's go on board. Let's have a bit of a listen. Where did he do it? There it is. On the main straight. Just went to go for the change from 4th to 5th, and I reckon he's gone back to 3rd there, Hans.
Got my telemetry up. Might be a randomised failure.
It sounded a bit strange. It sounded like it may have gone back to 3rd,
no,
and he's realised his mistake and tried to pull it back, and it was too late.
He actually, on the upshift from 4th to 5th, he went back into third gear. And let's just see what the RPM he was doing. He was doing about 8,500 RPM.
Well,
So
that'll do
that's
it.
not good at all for the poor engine.
Well, that's a blessing in disguise for Will Devenish. That means that he is in second place, but he's got an awful amount of ground to make up. 10 seconds is the gap after just 12 laps. Pete Savage into third, and Rossi's caught in the middle here. That means Luke Rosella's in fourth and Brenton Foley fifth. So not a bad recovery drive so far from Brenton Foley, and probably maybe another 1 or 2 spots potentially in it, depending on what happens over the course of the next 2/3 of this race.
So that opens up Will Devenish to second place. Now let's see if he's able to range up on the back ever so slightly of the TTR Commodore, just up ahead. When I say just up ahead, more like 10.5 seconds
Up the
ahead.
road. Let's get an idea of what the lap times are as they get across the line. So Stenberg's last lap was a 5:7.48. And as Will crosses the line now, he has done a 6.2. So it's a loss of over a half a second in that lap alone.
To note that Brendan Ross, he just can't take a trick in this race. And last race, that was Brenton Foley. So PBF guys, they just can't seem to get 2 cars with good results. It's either one or the other, sadly, and that's going to hurt them in the Teams Championship in the battle with Loose Sim Sport.
Yeah. The important thing
Gets
for
out
the
of the way of Rosella there, so good smart driving from Rossi.
The important thing for the points, though, is the points pay all the way down to 25th place. So as long as he finishes on the road, they're going to get some points, which is better than nothing. But you're absolutely spot on. They need every point they can get at the minute, given that they've got Pete Savage for Loose Sim Sport up in third. They've got Wedding in sixth, and they've got Zach Ross is in eighth. So there's already a big point swing going back the other way in terms of the Teams Championship. So they need every point they can get. Rossi's committed to this longer strategy now, and he's going to be getting the blue flags for the guys behind that are quicker, but he's got to stay with the leaders as much as he can to try and, claw back some of that deficit that is lost through that opening incident in the first couple of laps.
This race will unfold in the rest of this race, so many interesting things could happen. And the gap seems to have stabilised between Devenish and Stenberg around that 10.5 second mark.
Now this is probably the only real heavy battles that are on track at the minute. This is the battle over third place in the standings for this particular race. So Pete Savage is doing pretty well to hold off the advances of Luke Rosella, who has got a gap to Brenton Foley, who's just lost some touch with this pair at the minute, just hasn't been able to go with them. And then Brendan Ross is just hanging on to their coattails for good measure. I think Foley's not doing terrible sector times. He's just a tenth or so a sector slower than the guys ahead at the critical points, which means he's about a tenth a lap slower overall. Rosella's going to pull the trigger now down at turn number 1. Here he goes. But Pete Savage
close
just...
enough in the end.
Pete Savage is the last of the late breakers, and that leaves the gap, and Rosella says thank you very much, but just applied the power a little bit too early, and the rear end decided to squirm like a little piggy, and he ended up having to fall back into line.
Squirm like a little piggy, that's a new one.
Or squeal like a little piggy. I always like to say
squeal like a little piggy.
Squeal like a little piggy. It's like I always like squirm like a little piggy, because piggies do like to squirm.
Yeah, it's just like, that's an interesting one.
Piggies like to squirm when you pick them up.
What is also interesting is that, yeah.
Especially piglets.
Just farming things, isn't it? Oh,
yes.
Ross, he was nearly going around. I was about to make a comment about Brendan Ross. His pace is actually quite good. He's managing to hold on the back of third and fourth. So, although he's in the picture, he's not in the race for position. And unfortunately, he's left to rue what might have been after the rejoin for Will Devenish. And Rosella's in, and Foley in as well. So, Good, smart move from these guys. Get out of the traffic early.
Yep, got to pick the gap to fall into as well. So they will probably go close to getting a lap down again, given the short nature of the circuit. And
so what they've done, they've just split the strategy right down the middle.
Yep, pretty much spot on the half distance mark. Now Devenish has started to erase the deficit. He's got about 0.8 of a second off over the last couple of laps, where Stenberg's dropped into the low 6s. Devonish is still in the low 5. So about 2/10, 3/10 a lap over the last couple of laps, and he's slowly starting to chop into it, but it's not coming down fast enough. Now, if you will Devonish here, Hans, to have any sort of hope of catching up to Stenberg, you probably got to think about running long and basically almost do what he does. Stenberg's got the luxury of being able to dictate the pace here and dictate the terms as to how this race goes.
Well, I would in fact, just the last lap by, it was a 106.1 for Devonish, so not sure how that compares to...
Stenberg did 106.3, so there's 3/10 in that lap.
So he's just not catching him at a rate fast enough. I would probably, if I were Devonish, probably go just a little bit earlier into the pits and try and get a demon outlap when the tyres are still new. And maybe, Devonish, a bit wide there, bit of a lock brake.
Overdriving it again.
He's overdriving it now. And this is a problem that we've seen from Devonish in the recent past. When his back's up against it, he just tends to overdrive the car. But otherwise, when he's leading the race, he's doing quite well. So he just needs to calm the nerves down a little bit, stop the alarm bells ringing, and just drive the car. Just focus on the next exit.
Yeah, just got to drive to the limits and drive to the conditions that the game presents you. And he goes around again. Now there is some traffic in the pit lane. Or it's just exiting the lane. There it is, it's Termo. So the good thing for Will Devonish here is he'll be on the horn straight away, saying, don't get in my way on your outlap. Trying to make some pace, although we did lose some time to Will Devonish, from Will Devonish to Kurt Stenberg that time around. Swung back the other way as Stenberg starts to respond with a 105.7. He holds the best lap at the moment too with a 105.536. And I've also just noticed as well that he did pick up a curb strike, I believe, in that first sector just gone, as it hasn't registered a sector time for Kurt Stenberg. So that's a bit of a blip on the radar in what's otherwise been pretty smooth sailing for the TTR Commodore tonight so far.
Well, just have a look as he crosses the finish line if he's managed to get a track cut. And no, it's actually given him a lap time, 106.
Well, now it's actually sorted itself out. So it normally, with live races, it will tell us if a track cut comes up, mainly because where it normally says S1 and it gives you a sector time for S1, there wasn't one registered. It had skipped straight over and gone to S2, which usually means that they've missed a sector, and then the last lap time goes blank. But not on that particular occasion, it just took some time to catch up. So it's a bit of a false economy sometimes. Live races, it has had a few issues in the last couple of weeks as well, so not perfect, but it's I guess the closest thing we get to live timing.
Maybe we need to give Melbourne Uni Car Club a call.
Oh yeah, and get the older Dorian timers out again.
Everyone, I don't know how we're going to put Dorians on these cars, but I'm sure if we put them all in the same place, they should be right.
Have to get these
Melbourne
guys
Uni Car Club, they do all the timing for state racing. Big help for those of us that end up commentating, like yourself, Steve. And Stenberg, does he go into the pits? No, he doesn't.
Time.
His motor's on once again. Will Devonish, he's got the wrench symbol on, so potentially he's going to go for the pits.
And the answer to that question is yes. There he goes.
So this is not the Steve strategy, this is the Hans strategy. So let's see if it ends up getting him closer.
I think Rossi might have just had a bit of a moment off the final corner there, Hans. Sorry to cut across you, but he's there was a slow car and a yellow flag just in the last sector, and we might go and have a bit of a look at Brendan Ross. I think that he may have had a little moment here. Now, he had already pitted and was a lap down in 14th place, so he hasn't lost any positions. He hasn't gained any either. And, yep, just a little too happy on the loud pedal. Does a 360, plucks a gear, and off he goes.
That's Playfway car park stuff.
Shopping trolley car park stuff as well. Did you ever do that when you were young, Hans? Get the shopping trolley and tow it behind a bicycle and do all sorts of things like that?
I didn't do that, but I used to drift the shopping trolley around the aisles of the supermarket, much to the chagrin of my parents. They knew straight away. They're like, oh no, this kid's into racing. Oh no, what have we done? We failed.
We failed.
They probably still think that. In fact, when they see me commentating over pretend race cars, well, actually, I think they like that. But the one thing they don't like is how I spend a lot of time racing as well.
Oh, well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword in my household. I do both, but it's starting to become, the racing part of it has started to fall off a cliff. It starts to become a bit of an impost when your nearly 3-year-old daughter wants to do the same things that you do, and that means sitting in your sim racing rig and wanting to race the cars on the screen. So in my mind, I'm like, oh dear God, I'm going to have to buy another sim rig.
Oh, well, Callan Duncan in the pits. He's lasted a bit more than in the previous race, and Lewis Wedding coming out of the pits as well, so he's taken service.
Yep, so he's going to fold back into this battle on track behind Brenton Foley. So that's actually a net gain for Brenton Foley because he was behind Wedding on the road, and it's also a gain over Pete Savage because Savage has come in and stopped and Foley's already been in too. So Foley has used the undercut to perfection, gained 2 spots out of that, with Devonish and Rosella yet to stop. Or have they stopped? No, they have stopped.
Devonish
no, they have
stopped.
Sorry, no, they have stopped. I just got my wires crossed for a minute. They're just looking at it, going, "Hang on, these guys have these guys been in or not?" And the answer is they have. So the only man that's yet to stop is the race leader, and he's better part of 3/4 of the lap ahead of these guys.
Laps. He'll probably be in the next couple of laps, Kurt Stenberg.
I reckon it's going to be this lap, just out of curiosity. Lap number, conclusion of lap 23, just judging by the spanner symbol on the left-hand side there. And the comments for the live stream tonight, or the blurb for the live stream, was that I was joking whether or not the field was going to be able to take it up to Kurt Stenberg, given that the short races have been the ones he's had to earn hardest for over the course of time as he makes a fool of me and goes on for another lap. And the very stern response from Kurt Stenberg in the Facebook was no.
That is confidence.
That's supreme confidence.
It's like one of the old Home Loan ads. It's like, that's confidence, and that's Kurt Stenberg. So there you go. The kid, he definitely knows what he's been doing, and he does a lot of practice for sim racing. And he's definitely one of the top operators out there.
Yeah, definitely one of the top operators in AMS Oz and also in Automobilista Supercars as well.
I just realised I unintentionally did escapism there, talking about operators. So
yes.
I meant to say that he's a very top driver, but top operator works as well. And I believe if we wanted to go full scape bingo, I'd say, yeah, he's operating at a very high level.
There's a nice little battle pack just starting to emerge here as we're just honed in on the back end of the top 10. So Cam Rutledge and Termo CRE are inside the 10. Zach Ross and Liam Spencer on the outside of the 10, just starting to catch up to the pair of them, knocking on the door, trying to get in. And of course, these guys are already a lap down, so they've already stopped. Oh, moment for Liam Spencer there. Does a little bit of housekeeping across the grass on the inside of turn 10.
Kurt Stenberg in the pits.
All right, so that means these guys are all going to get their lap back. And they do. So through they go. That cleanses the field. So Stenberg will come out with probably about a 9.5 second advantage over Will Devonish, I would guess. Devonish has been putting in a couple of quick laps with the newer tyre. And Zach Ross, a little sideways moment out of one. And let's go up and pick up where Will Devonish is. So here he comes down the main straight. And Stenberg already well clear, got 2/3 of the front straight away as his advantage, and we won't realise the true gap until we get to the Sector 1 split because of the way the outlaps and the in-laps work. And the Sector 1 split comes up about now for Stenberg, so it says 18.2 seconds ahead, or 18.12 seconds ahead of Will. I think that's going to be about 9.5. And it's actually 8.8, so Will's made a little bit more ground than what I thought he had.
Yeah, Will's made a bit of a gain there, but not quite enough to run over the top of Stenberg. And Stenberg, again, he holds the lead, barring some sort of unfortunate calamity, is looking certain for another race victory, it seems. And again, another fantastic performance.
And he just keeps edging away, doesn't he? I mean, after that disaster of a round that was called a park, where he lost pretty much half his points advantage to Will Devonish, it came down to under 100 points. these second place finishes that Will keeps racking up are just enough to stay within striking distance, but they're really not enough to make any huge inroads. The back half of the season is going to be really important for Will if he wants to really challenge for the title come the last couple of rounds of the season.
Yeah, the most important thing is that if your main competition is out there winning races, you're going to have to beat your main competition. And that's what Will Devonish needs to do right now, but it looks like it's not going to be tonight. And again, that points gap will open up after tonight.
Yeah, it's going to open up to the tune, if I get my mouse in order and have a look at how the standings and the points allocation work, there's a difference of 24 points for a pair of race wins tonight. So overall, the gap is going to go out from 117 points out to about 140-ish or thereabouts. So you lose... It's 150 points for a race win on a sprint race format, times 2 of those, maximum 300 points a night, and your 12 points in arrears for second place of a race win. So times 2 of those, it's 24 as a deficit.
So he's still within striking distance, but he needs to get his skates on and he starts winning races.
Yeah, he needs to get his skates on real quick. We look at the win count actually across the season. And Stenberg coming into tonight had racked up 8 of the 12 wins that were on offer, which is now 9 out of 13, with Devonish with 3, and the only other one going to Brenton Foley, which was the second race at Barbagallo. And the podiums have been pretty much shared between Stenberg, Devonish, Foley are the ones where the main ones are. Rosella has got a handful to his name. He's got 3, looking like he's going to get a 4th one. And then a couple of other ones dotted around. So Wedding with a pair, Mitch Hathaway with a pair, Pete Savage and Phil Boak with 1 each. And then Thomas McMillan has a second place finish from Albert Park as well. So the podiums, or the perennial front runners are the ones that are occupying the podium positions most of the time, with a couple of loose ones in there for measure as Devonish makes a bit of a mistake down at turn 1. He's under really no direct threat from Luke Rosella though, so he's got a little bit of margin in hand. And not a great deal of battles going on down the track. This is a close one between Lou Simsport teammates in Pete Savage and Lewis Wedding. And then a bit further back, Cam Rutledge has got his hands full at the minute with a miniature train. Behind him, Lime Mitch and Termo, and then behind them, Liam Spencer and Zach Ross duking it out as well. With Brendan Ross actually hanging on to their coattails pretty handily as well.
Termo and Lime Mitch, bit of contact there, but Termo got out of it and made sure he didn't gain any advantage.
Mistake for Rutledge. Lawn mowing service in operation for Lime Mitch.
Is he going to send it on Rutledge? I think he is. Not quite far enough there. Rutledge holds position.
Left him a space though, which was good, and now holds him high and wide at the hairpin. Termo sticks his nose in there. Very nice. It was half a
2-for-1 special as well, but just the one position up for Termo. Good to see Termo up there fighting a good battle and keeping it clean, because unfortunately, like I've remarked before, he has been punted a couple of times. Oh, right over the curb there. 4 wheels up in the air for Lime Mitch and Liam Spencer as well.
Yeah, a little airborne moment there. The Mustang has a bit of a look down the inside at the final corner, but there's nothing there. Zach Ross is trying to get a move done on Liam Spencer as well, who's trying to make it 4 CRE cars inside the top 10. But Ross just mustn't have been able to get the launch off the final corner that he needed to. He's moving late, and he's not quite close enough. He's going to have to box out Brendan Ross here as well. Race leaders behind this pair as well.
Fastest lap of the race, 104.914.
There
so
we go.
He's done it.
He's finally done it. He was talking it up, and he's done the business. So race lap record now into the 4s to match the qualifying lap record, which is about a tenth and a little bit quicker than that.
That is really impressive.
That is wringing the neck of the car for all it's worth, isn't it?
Well, Zach Ross just got into the back of Liam Spencer. Fortunately, no spins, but that would have been a bit of a heart-in-the-mouth moment for Spencer.
Just doing his best to follow in the wheel tracks here of Lime Mitch. A bit of an awkward moment over the curb there. Just had nowhere to go. And there now he's vulnerable. Zach Ross has got to move on the inside of him at turn number 14. And there you can just see the rear wing just disappearing out of shot as they run down the main straight. So he's got this move done. He's just got to consolidate it at the first turn.
They're going to go 3 wide.
Well, Rossi's going to try and buy in here, but Rossi was borderline out of control, and he is out of control. He's on the grass.
I should say B Ross is off the road, and Z Ross is well in control.
And Liam Spencer's going to fight this back as they run all the way up to turn 4.
Zach Ross, he bounced off that curb. The car wasn't happy at all, and he managed to save it. Very taily from them.
Yeah, they're squirming
running
all
out
over
of turn 5. And it all seems to die down there.
They're squirming all over the place at the minute. And our curb cam caught it perfectly with the line that Liam Spencer took compared to Zach Ross. And Zach Ross was well over the top of our curbside camera at turn 3. And the aftershot just showed that he was very, very much out of control on the braking zone up to 4. So this battle group is just ahead of the race leader, who is coming around to start his final lap now. There he is, back a shot.
See, I was about to mention the race leader. He's got about a 10.8 second lead over Devonish right now. So the gap has blown out to the pre-pit stop sort of gap that we were seeing. And Luke Rosella, he is not that far away from Devonish. He's only 4 seconds behind. But on the final lap of the race, it's going to take some sort of mistake for him to get one further step on the podium. But good to see Luke Rosella up there and Brenton Foley up in 4th.
Yeah, that's a massive recovery drive from Brenton Foley. He'll be mighty pleased with that from the rear of grid after that horrible accident in turn 14 on the opening couple of laps of race 1. He has done pretty well to keep in contention for second and third on the point standings, and the man behind him in the standings was Steve Burko after the last round, but he was still some 600 points in arrears. So it doesn't hurt Foley too badly, but it just keeps him as close as he can to Will Devonish in the run to the end of the championship. But chalk up another win for the number 47 TTR Commodore. His 10th of the campaign, and a comfortable one, this one in the end. Devonish home second, Rosella home third. So that was the finishing order of the Townsville race for the top 3, and three of them find themselves sharing the rostrum again. Brent Foley home in 4th. As we said, a pretty handy recovery drive from him after all of that. And Pete Savage wins the loose SimSport battle, getting home for P5 ahead of Lewis Wedding in 6th. Bit of a quiet drive from Lewis Wedding after all that, Hans.
Yeah, probably in the pit stop phase it didn't go to plan, but Steve Burko in 7th finishes where he started.
Yep.
So a solid night's performance for Burko.
Pair of 7ths for Burko. And then Cam Rutledge. Look at this.
He's going to lead home turbo.
Rutledge is going to get home turbo, and then there's a late minute charge on here. Zach Ross is squeezing. It was in the fence.
Probably worthy of a replay, that one.
Lion Mitch gets home for 10th, just ahead of Liam Spencer and Zach Ross. There was a lot of shenanigans just in that last little phase of the race. Let's pick this up. Here we go.
So Liam Spencer, he's actually bumped Lion Mitch at the final corner. And he's just trying to slow down and redress.
Let's just rewind it back. Let's have a look here. So, yep, there was a bump. So that was that. He's just trying to slow down to redress. You're right. And then Zach Ross gets there's another serve there as well. And then, that's about as close as you want to get. And I think maybe that might have been too close.
I think that's what you call 3/4 of a car width space. And interesting to note that Lime Mitch and Liam Spencer were continuing in the bumping match after the corner. So I don't think Lime Mitch was particularly happy with the serve up that he got at the final corner, but they all managed to get out unscathed and provide a bit of entertainment in the process.
Yeah, they sure did. That was a pretty wild run to the end of that, right? For the back half of that top 10 there, and good to see Cam Rutledge with a pretty good performance in that one. I think he ended up with 8th place, so that's his second 8th place finish of the season. we spoke about him, I think, in our last broadcast, that he'd done pretty well keeping up with the guys that he was meant to be keeping up with, but just some of these other guys in front that have lifted their pace and taken their driving to a new level this year has meant that he finds himself in 6th place overall on the standings, but just not sort of able to crack into that sort of beyond that 8th place because there's so many quick guys in this field.
Yeah, it just shows the level of competition has just stepped up once again. So it just shows that AMS Oz is going from strength to strength in terms of the quality of the field, and very good to see a couple of new guys up there as well.
Yeah, sure is. Well, here they come, Hans. I will let you loose with them again. Slightly different top 3, but just by 1 spot.
We'll start from 3rd place once again. And Luke Rosella, good to see you back up on the podium. And again, another strong performance once again in the AMS Oz Championship.
Yeah, thanks, Hans. Just want to do the right thing before I start and apologise to Brendan for that early incident. Just a bit silly on me. I saw Devonish sort of close in and didn't really let off the gas and hit him off. So I apologise for him, and I'll message him as well after. But good recovery from me. Bit of a shocker in the first race, just overdriving it, and just ruining those rear tyres. But just concentrated on recovering what was lost in race 1 and race 2. Good start, and made my way through into the top 3. Good strategy to beat Peter, and just sat behind Will Devonish and tried my best to keep up. But he was really quick today, but pretty happy with 3rd place at the end.
Yeah, well done, a stellar 3rd place. But there are a couple of hairy moments. You mentioned the Brendan Ross incident when Will Devonish was rejoining the circuit, but especially in both in race 1 and 2, there were some very elbows out moments.
Yeah, you're right. Thomas, I think the lap 1, Thomas sort of gave me a bit of a bump from behind and set me off, but it's all good. He apologised after the race, and I sort of loosely know him over in ASC, and he's not a dirty driver, so no hard feelings on him. But it's just a few bust ups in that race 1. Let me tell you.
Again, congratulations on a stellar 3rd place, and Luke Rosella, on your way to the top 10, I guess, if you keep this run going.
Yeah, I wanted to have a good streak of podiums, but missed that on race 1. But it's been a bit of a shame I haven't done the full season. I'll be sort of right up there in the pecking order, but hey ho, so I'm not complaining.
Good stuff from Luke Rosella there, and on to 2nd place again. What might have been in this race, but Will Devonish, another solid position, and you're not letting Stenberg run too far away with the championship.
Yeah, it's not the bridesmaids round this round, but first race I could have got Kurt. 2nd race he was head down bum up, so it would have been a tall order, even if I wasn't caught up in traffic to catch him. So well done to Kurt this weekend. Also shout out to the team, absolutely stellar working together, getting past Line Mitch back in the midfield. So really happy with everyone's performance tonight.
Yeah, the other cars did provide some entertainment, but also entertainment of your own. Now, the $10 million question: did you get served at turn 1 by McMillan, or did you run off on your own?
I think it's a bit of a racing incident. It was just a bit different barge, and I was on my braking limit. It was a bit of a bump sideways, and that unsettled me enough to lock up the brake, so I had to let it off. No hard feelings there. It was hard racing.
Yeah, it was a cracking battle in the early stages, but Will, another 2nd place, and keeping touch in the points battle. Congratulations on your 2nd place, mate.
Thank you.
And another race victory, 10 race victories so far this season for Kurt Stenberg. And I mean, you said it earlier on in the night, will there be anyone who can take it up to Kurt Stenberg? You emphatically answered no, and turns out you were right.
I was right. When you
Yeah.
make comments like that, you really do have to go out and back yourself. So I've gone out and I've backed myself on the track. So I'm glad I did that. Otherwise, I would look like a bit of an idiot.
So the good thing now, Kurt, is that now you look like a guru. Whereas before, I mean, if you didn't go well, you were going to look like a complete and utter idiot. But now you look like a guru, so that's okay.
It is okay. It's pretty good to look like it's pretty good to have confidence and be able to back it up. Yeah, I thought I'd go well at this track. Obviously, I know this track pretty well. Seen it on my computer screen a number of years back when I put it together, and done a number of laps around here. Didn't do much prep. Did about half an hour of driving before this race. Loaded last year's setup, but obviously whatever I got from last year is pretty good because she went well straight out of the box. So yeah, really happy with that. And that race I drove even better. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to get the lap record as well. Get the 4.49 in there. So yeah, everything's gone pretty well tonight. It's been pretty good.
Couldn't write it a better way, Stenny. You put a good full stop at the end of it with a 1:04.9 fastest lap, and I mean we're midway through the season. Is there anyone who can stop you?
Well, you better ask Will that. He's the closest person. He seems to be the bridesmaid every round. He's the contender. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the rounds. I'm not going to get too cocky because we've seen what's happened at other rounds. So just got to keep turning up and trying to rack up the best finishing position you possibly can at every race. So that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm going to continue to try to do.
Well done, Kurt. Another fantastic win tonight, and well done to all our podium place getters. Really good racing tonight, and definitely turned it on in the two races that we had tonight, Steve. Very well done.
Yeah, he certainly did. He couldn't have summed that up any better. When you make certain statements, you've got to go out and back yourself, and that's precisely what he did. And it means he has opened up a 141-point championship lead. I was right when I did my rough math. I did say it'd be about 140-ish, and it's just a touch over 140. So there's still plenty of time to go, though, and that's the important thing. There's still a lot of time left for Will Devenish to catch Kurt Stenberg if there happens to be an off night. Brenton Foley is starting to lose a little bit of touch with Will Devenish. He's 210 points in arrears coming out of tonight. And then there's a really big gap all the way back to Steve Burko, nearly 600 points. And then it starts to get pretty interesting through the mid part of the top and the back end of the top 10. There's quite a number of guys very, very close within about 150 points of each other. Termo, Lewis Wedding. Cam Rutledge is right in the mix there as well. And Termo and Cam Rutledge being not only out of the same stable as Will Devenish, but both being the Pro B top 1 and 2. So we actually don't mention enough about some of those guys and how well they're going. Most of our attention's on the guys at the front, but in terms of the driver class, it is Termo and Cam Rutledge that are in Pro B. I've got Steve Burko listed down here as Pro B as well, but I'm not sure if that's entirely correct, but I'll have to double check that throughout the week just to see how all that's going. What we will do is have a quick look at what is coming up in the land of Automobilista Australia over the next couple of events. And we alluded to this a little bit earlier in the night. The GT3 Sprint Series kicked off with a big bang a week and a half ago, and it continues next Tuesday here on the Outworld Broadcasting Channel at the Bend Motorsport Park. For those of you that haven't watched it, you need to watch some of this GT3 Sprint stuff. 30-minute races, or pair of 30-minute races a night with 2 qualifying sessions and no pit stops and no safety cars, pushing cars in GT3 to the limit as much as you can. I believe we might actually be about to see Luke Rosella make his debut in that category as well. I've seen some the Bend Motorsport Park Audis painted up, so I'll be looking forward to see if they get out there on track next Tuesday. Wednesday next week, the next one of the triple header of Wednesdays for ATCC Group A, Barbagallo Raceway, is the next circuit on the calendar, and Michael Zalavari and Chris Riddell will take care of the broadcasting for that one over on the Endurance Chat Media channel. Super 2 next Friday night, the Surfers Paradise Street Circuit, not the V8 Supercar circuit. It is the old school IndyCar layout, so a circuit we have not seen in Automobilista Australia before, and a circuit that a lot of people have not seen for many, many years. We'll be back in action on the 31st of July. And then the kickoff of a brand new series on Tuesday, the 4th of August. The Porsche Cup, or the AMS Oz Boxer Cup, as I've been told in my ear that it is, from the 4th of August. And it all starts at Long Beach in the United States. So that's a 9-round calendar, and it'll take us right through till the end of the year. Hans, you and I are both driving in that one at this stage, and like all the series this year, the liveries on the cars look outstanding, and there's a number of guys in contention for winning some races in that series. Very, very closely contested.
Yeah, if the test race is anything to go by, it's going to be definitely an action-packed series. A lot of door-to-door racing, considering the style of cars that they're driving, very downforce sort of focused cars as well. So very impressive. And when the tyres go off it, they are a big handful and they will struggle. So a lot of the races, they are quite on the limit of what you can manage with one set of tyres, but you got to be able to set your car up, and very limited car setup options that you have available to you. And if you can get a good setup and you drive the car in a very controlled and calm manner, you may be able to get up a few positions. Reverse top 8 as well, and that will definitely add a bit more action to the field, Steve.
Yeah, certainly will. And of course, if you're tuning in just explicitly for Supercars, the next time that you tune in here on the Outworld Broadcasting Channel will be on the 13th of August, which we go racing across the ditch for the Hamilton 200, yet another circuit that has not appeared in AMSL Supercars before, and we look forward to seeing for the very, very first time in Supercars competition. Super 2 field have been there. Some of the Super 2 guys in the AMSL Supercars field will have a little bit of an advantage, as they're the ones that have already seen it for the very, very first time. So that's the next time we go Supercars racing. But until next time, as always, please drive safely, and we'll see you next week for the GT3 Sprint Series. Bye for now.
The party looked familiar. A case of deja vu. Is this where it will happen? The connection of two. Conversation hopeful. The mind begin to soar. The answer is revealing. Try another door.